lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 262 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, March the 22nd, 2025, and my name is Jeremy Lee. Guys, tomorrow night, back on the channel, will be the Fanatics Collect weekly all-sport auction coverage show. New format, started last Sunday, and tomorrow will be the second episode of that. Please join me tomorrow night for that. It is a ton of fun. Guys, if you are looking to add a grail to your collection, make sure you check out Fund Your Cards. They are the hobby's leading consolidator. They will help you finance the purchase with your own cards. Visit fundyourcards.com, and there you will find their proprietary client platform that cements them as the leaders in the space. And guys, Mint Inc. is a leading hobby brand in Canada. Check out their 2 Toronto locations, online shipping, online shopping, worldwide shipping. They do live streams, auctions, breaks, grading, and more. Their focus is to be the leading hobby experience in Canada. Check out mintinc.ca. And guys, GP Sports Cards as well. They do a wide variety of hockey breaks right here on YouTube on Wednesday and Friday nights. Check out gpsports.com. And if you are looking for a gem mint in sports statistics, Rolling Insights delivers a high-quality data for everyone. Businesses trust their data feeds to power their platforms with real-time stats, box scores, player and team performance data. Fans and fantasy players rely on SportWise for an instant access to performance data. You can finally ditch those messy spreadsheets, whether you're running a business or just for the love of the game. Turn raw stats into a real advantage. Visit rolling-insights.com today. And guys, if you're not yet familiar with Chronosio, you should be by now. They're the ultimate card inventory manager on the market. Imagine an inventory tool. They do all the heavy lifting for you. Their AI autofilling is 90% accurate. And if you sell on eBay, you will love the fully integrated connection. It's been a trusted part of the eBay community since 2017. Millions of cards have already been listed and sold using Chronosio. If your collection only has 100 or less cards, it may not be the solution for you, but 1,000, 5,000, even 250,000 cards, there is simply no contest. Chronosio is the only option for serious collectors. Elevate your experience, guys. Get started home.chronosio.com. And all of the Sports Cards Live partner and sponsored links are down below in the description. And if you'd like to sell your cards on eBay, you want the pros to handle it for you, reach out to me directly, Jeremy@slabsharks.com. I'd be happy to help you get started and turn some of those cards into money to spend on more cards. Guys, this show is available on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow and subscribe for free. Please leave a rating or review on your preferred podcast platform. And thank you, as always, to our loyal viewers and listeners. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, please take a moment and do so. And as always, your comments and questions will be in play. Let's bring out our co-host from Santa Cruz, California, Mr. Joe Poirot. Joe, how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing well, Jay Lee. How are you?
I'm good. I'm still riding a little bit of shock right now after what transpired here 2 nights ago, Thursday night, during the Fanatics Premier auction, the Fanatics Collect Premier auction. And yeah, it's been quite the couple days just in my own headspace, trying to make sense of what I've done and how I'm going to satisfy my obligations, I guess you could say. But it's all going to work out just fine in time. And if you know what I'm talking about, but if others don't, I purchased quite a significant card on the Fanatics Collect Premier auction on Thursday, and it's a 1914 Cracker Jack Joe Jackson card that many of you will be aware of already because it happened sort of live during our show on Thursday night. Me and Adam Gray, the Real 27 guy. And Joe, you know, one thing I want to start talking to you about before we bring on Dr. Beckett, who I see back there, we're going to bring him on in just a few minutes. I wanted to hear from you because you were a big part of my whole, analysis and research. And I mean, we were bouncing the potential of me making that purchase off of each other for close to 2 weeks. And So, but we were not together when the auction ended. You were watching the show, but just kind of curious, where your head was at, because again, people might think, well, what do you care what Joe thinks? I mean, you're the one that bought the car, Jeremy. Yeah, but Joe was we probably spent 20 hours talking about it for a couple weeks leading up. So what was going through your mind, Joe, when the auction was happening and when I finally announced what had taken place?
I was rooting for you to push in big, and like any big advice that anybody gives, whether it's like relationships or investments, jobs, whatever, these critical junctures in our life. It's hard to know how much how decisive to be in the recommendation. So sort of what I was trying to do was just, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Ultimately knowing that, you're a grown ass man and you'll make a good decision. But we looked at I did my very best to with both the upsides and also, not that there was that many downsides, but just like, have you thought about that? And you were at every turn convincing me that it was not just a yes, but a hell yes on the card. You have a good poker face. I'll say that. I don't want to play poker against you, because I did not think, from your expression and knowing kind of where your threshold was, I didn't get the sense that you had one, but I didn't rule it out either. And so when you finally announced it, I was really happy for you, man.
Yeah. Thank you. But thank you for, always along the way, you were always giving me other things to think about. And it forced me to really do my research, really dig deep and think long and hard, and just consider, the pros, the cons, the upside, the downside. And like you said, every turn I went, or every corner I went around, I was just more and more convinced that this was something that I really, really wanted to do, and I believe in it. And we're going to bring back Dr. Beckett out. We'll welcome the crowd. We'll bring out Dr. Beckett, and I can't wait to hear what he thinks about the card. And I don't know if you just found out about it right now or if you knew already. But let's say hello to Andrew Deutsch is in the house, guys. Laura, welcome back. Oh, good evening, Cracker Jack Lee. Thank you, Laura. Return to Collecting is here. We have Chris C in the house, as Paul Van Poppel is a great investment. Jacob Dahl, good evening. Steve Clifton, Orlando from A Collector's Dream is here. Chris C, Robert Scott, Douglas Powers, welcome to the show, Douglas. Mark Santucci is here as always. Vintage is here. Thank you, Vintage. Bobby Baseball, good evening. The Curmudgeon is here. Yitz is in the house. Todd McDonald, got to see Todd on the Gong Show podcast last night. Actually, watched it this morning. Yankees fan, good morning, good evening to you. Skeppy, what's up? Skeppy. Thank you, Orlando. I appreciate the congratulations very much. Cardboard Corner, welcome to the show. Jeff McMahon, Timeless Possession. Sam Hill says, man, I did love this game. I have played for food money. It was the game, the sounds, the email, the smells. Congrats. Thank you, Sam Hill. Jake Dahl, it's now been announced. Skeppy, what I've done, he said, what I've done. I did a thing. Thank you, Chris C. Gariani, good to see you. Mark Santucci, thank you. Mookie Chilson, is it true that Dr. Beckett is here to present a check for the Shoeless Cracker Jack? I don't think so, but we will see. We will see for sure. Dan's Vintage Baseball PC, welcome to the show, Dan. Pre-war Dreams, unbelievable pickup. Usually my pickups like that end up with my alarm waking me up. I hear you. Mike Double V, good evening to you. Zeke Z, what is up? Yankees fan, thank you so much. Dave Snyder is here, everybody. Daniel Brown is here. Pick Six Cards, thank you very much. Jeff McMahon, yeah, that was a lot of fun, Jeff. Thank you. Michael H, good to see you as well. Clemente Collector is here. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Joe, let's get into it. Dr. Beckett is here a couple minutes earlier. Let's bring him on. Are you ready to go, Jim? He's giving me the thumbs up. Dr. James Beckett. Whoa. What's going on there? We'll go right there. How are you, sir? Welcome back to the show.
I'm great, Jeremy. It's great to hear your news.
When did you hear about it, Jim?
About 3 minutes ago.
Okay. Yeah. The news, I guess the news sort of did travel through Instagram and a bit on YouTube, but Yeah, a lot of research went into that purchase, Jim and Joe. By the way, say hi to Joe. I don't know if you guys
Hi,
have
Joe.
met before.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Beckett.
You bet. You bet.
Well, it was an exciting night for me, Jim, and very excited to add it. I guess I'll just ask you right out of the gate. What do you think about the 19, 14, and 15 Cracker Jack set? The Joe Jackson, maybe in particular. It's a card that I don't have it in hand yet, but I'm very excited to have secured it.
I don't have it in hand yet either. I don't have that card. Let me just say this. From many years of experience, I won't say the 15 Cracker Jacks are overvalued, but the 14 Cracker Jacks are undervalued. The prices, they kind of stay together, and yet the 15s are way, way easier than the 14s. The condition rarity of the 14s. So I don't think the market has ever fully comprehended the difference in those two sets. They sound like they're just 1 year apart. They look the same and all that. But if you've got a 14, that's a 14 Shoeless Joe is way better. Not just because it's a year earlier. It's way tougher, supply much lower, and supply in decent condition much lower. So congrats. That's a big card. You know, back in the old days, collectors were known by kind of the sets that they'd completed or the big cards that they had. And that was huge. That was huge. So congrats. That's an awesome card.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear. It's great to hear your thoughts on it. Helps validate the purchase. It's a big outlay for me, and my intention is not to outlay any money for it, but to do it with cards. And it's after the show ended on Thursday night, because we covered the Fanatics Premier auction, and it ended, and Joe and I got back on the phone after that. It was late. And I started going through boxes. I'm like, I don't want to give this up. I don't want to give that up. Like, I like all my cards, and I'm going to have some very difficult decisions to make, but I think I have a direction to go in, and I'm going to be giving up some rare vintage, some high-end, recent vintage, 70s, 80s, that kind of stuff, and some modern as well, to put together the amount to pay off this card. So it's going to be a bit of a shift in my collection, but I'm still going to retain my favorite cards to the best of my ability.
You're dealing, you're trading in baseball, right? You're not touching your hockey stuff, are you? Or is that?
Oh, for sure I am. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, definitely.
I thought you were. So you're not hockey first.
Well, I am hockey first. If you look at my collection and just the quantity of cards, it's dominated by hockey. But if you look at it by value, it's a lot heavier baseball than it is hockey, overall, because I've got some really great baseball cards. And now I'm going to shift a lot of that hockey value over to baseball. But, I'm looking at high print run cards in high grade that are, I'm going to need to come up with several $5,000-$10,000 cards to do this. So a PSA 10 Brett Hull rookie or a PSA 10 Steve Yzerman rookie, that's going to be several $1,000s to start chipping away at this big amount. And those are cards that I'll be just as happy replacing with 9s down the road when I get around to it. So I will definitely be going into my hockey. I have no choice. I'll have to. And I don't want to give up, baseball. I don't want to give up we'll see. I've got
You're becoming more of a historical collector of iconic personalities and important people and important things like that. And also you've moved totally toward eye appeal. One of the problems with Cracker Jacks is that the connoisseurs think that, well, gee, I've got to get the 15s because there's been enough finds of those with the complete set offer that you can find some nicer ones. But the 14s, if you even find it, I mean, it's just, those are really, really tough. So you're cashing in stuff that you could easily find again and you have a choice of condition for a card that you rarely even see in any condition.
Exactly. And the one that I picked up, did you have a chance to even see it on the, it's in spectacular, absolute spectacular condition. It looks like at a distance, it looks like it could be a perfect card. It looks like it could be in a PSA 8 holder. It's perfectly centered. It's got great bold color. It's got a crease. It's got a fold at the bottom corner, but it's a 1.5, and it just looks, it looks way better than that. I put a picture of it up on Instagram, and so many people, how is it a 1.5? I said, well, there's technically something to do with it. There's something.
I know, but the psychology is flipped, because you would have I mean, this is perverse, but you would have preferred that it was a 1.
I would have. Yeah.
It's the exact upside down opposite of most collectors. I want it to be a 2 at least. No, a 1.5. If been a 1, now I mean, you probably don't want an A.
Well, I don't want it. Yeah.
You want a numerical grade, but a 1.5 with a crease. I don't care how heavy the crease. If it's got bold color and a Cracker Jack and it's well centered, well done, Jeremy. Well done.
Thank you. Guys, coming from Dr. Beckett, I don't know if it gets much better than that. Here, I'm gonna pull up a picture of it just to show you. I think that'll be helpful, and for anyone else who's watching who wasn't here the other day. But there's the card. There's the card.
Ridiculous.
Look at this thing. There's a fold right there down at the bottom left corner that is kind of hard to see. There's a crease coming right in here. But other than that, Jim, look at this thing. And so you might, if I zoom in even more, do you see this white faded kind of line? It's a little jaggedy. Now, I was watching on the Sports Card Investor on Jeff Wilson's show. He had an episode just a few days ago where he went through with Ken Kendrick all of Ken Kendrick's best cards, and he has this card. He has this 1914 Cracker Jack, and I was able to see, just luckily, that, and his is, I think it was a PSA 8, it has that same white faded kind of line going through it this way, which when I saw that was even more information and validation that, okay, that is not a flaw that is restricted to just this copy.
Okay, so now you're going to resubmit and go for the 2 or the 3. No, I'm kidding, but the problem with resubmitting a PSA is that what would your upcharge be?
Yeah.
But you could point that out, and maybe you would get a 2, but that's not relevant to you, and
Right.
It shouldn't be to anybody. On vintage cards, on modern cards, you want a gem mint card. I understand that.
I had people reach out saying, "Are you going to resubmit it?" I said, "No, I like it just the way it is, exactly the way it is." I couldn't be happier with it the way it looks. I think it's
No,
what else can I say?
you're trying to buy cards that are undergraded.
Yes,
Where the technical grade may be accurate, but it does not quantify the eye appeal and the beauty of the card.
that's
If people are following you, they're learning a lesson here. That's a spectacular looking card. It's not dingy. The proverbial bullet hole. It's not a bullet hole. It might have a heavy crease, but it doesn't break the color. I mean, that's a spectacular card.
isn't. Thank you. Yeah, I am. It's a very strange feel. It's a card. People always ask you, and Joe, this, people always say, what's on your want list? What are the top 3 cards you want right now? I've never even mentioned this one. It wasn't even within my reach. I didn't think it would ever be within my reach. And then the opportunity presented itself, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. And then it came time to bid, and I went well above what I set out as my maximum during the auction. And here's another thing, which was kind of nice. The day after, I showed it on Instagram, and the consigner of the card said to me, "I'll make you 2 promises, Jeremy. First, I promise you won't be disappointed or miss any of the cards you trade away to get this one. And number 2, a year from now, if you want, I'll pay you what you paid for the card." So that's a nice little insurance policy right there. And then I had another person reach out and say the same thing. If you want to sell this, I'll pay you. I'll buy it from you. They didn't say what you paid, what they'd pay me what I paid, but I have to assume that they're thinking that way or even a little bit more. So, but at the end of the day, not planning to, this is a lifetime hold for me. This is a card that I will be the foundation of my collection.
In the old days, cards were worth more than cash. This is a card that is like that. It's better than cash. Not that it's worth more. It's just that in the currency of the hobby, this talks more than a stack of $100 bills, and it always will. The price will go up. The price, I don't know, it'll go down, but that's an awesome card. That's an awesome card. That's true bragging rights, because it has very low supply and high demand. And it's undergraded. And I'm just saying, undergraded cards are there's I'm not going to necessarily be a run on them, but smart collectors are realizing that if you're only going by the number, you're missing out, and you're overpaying in many cases.
Couldn't be happier. Okay, let's switch up the topic now, because we do have some things that we want to talk about with you, and we don't have you very long. We have you for about 38 more minutes, and so one of the things that I know in speaking with you this week, Jim, that you wanted to maybe touch on was the types of shill bids that are out there. And we've talked about it here on the show. You listen to this show, and I'm grateful for that and honored by that. Have been for 5 years now, but you mentioned that there are different types of shill bids that you've, I guess, categorized yourself. And why don't you take a minute and kind of explain those different ones and maybe, the severity or the offensiveness relative to each other, if that makes sense.
It's a horrible thing, but when people say shill bidding, it means different things to different people. And most people think of the worst possible situation, which is somebody bidding up their own stuff without any intention really even to pay, but just to goose up the second high bidder so that they can either sell their card for more, or they can establish a new level of comp for maybe they have another copy of the card. It's everybody is against that. That's not right. That's defrauding many people. Anybody involved in the bidding, Mastro, who's confessed to this, went to prison, and Doug Allen, those guys, they actually were able, and they've confessed that they were able to see the max bids in the auction house and to place some bids to kind of push it up to the max. That's also illegal, as evidenced by the punishment fitting the crime. But those are kind of offensive kinds of shill bidding on the high end. And I'm looking forward to visiting a little bit with Chris Hoge, because it really wreaks havoc with the comps, because all of a sudden you got a false comp. You got a false comp that and the shill group, because it's sometimes more than one person, is delighted if they bumped up comps to have a perceived comp that's much higher because they propped it up. Okay, I'm totally against any of this offensive shill bidding, and then sometimes they'll renege anyway. If they did win, they didn't even want to win; they wanted to push up the second person. But if they accidentally won, they want to renege, and then you ban them, and they just come back with a different name, the different user ID. So that's insidious. I hate that. But what I wanted to talk about is the other side of it is the defensive kinds of shill bidding. And y'all got into that a little bit, that, if the item is misdescribed, misspelled, I've auctioned I've used some consigners for some friends of mine in some estate kinds of things. I'm a pro bono consultant, so I'm not doing anything except helping them. And so I've placed some nice cards with not every one of the auction houses, but many of the auction houses, and I've had conversations with several of them. Look, it's not my card. It's my friend's card. And they don't go, oh, sure. They realize, I mean, and I put them in contact with the person. I'm the kind of the agent. I'm kind of helping unpaid agent to get it to a consignor. In one case, though, I gave a card to a consignor that was outside their wheelhouse, and they did a poor job. And I'm sitting there thinking, I encourage my friend to put this card there. They have not promoted it properly. It's going for way lower. And I had a dilemma. That auctioneer, to compound the problem, said, nope, there's nothing you could do. I had another situation where there was a misspelling. I contacted the service. It's a well-known, I'm not going to say their names. And he said, look, if it's not your card, you can bid. I said, but I'm the one that mailed it to you. He said, yeah, but the check's going to the other guy. I know, we talked about this. They aren't your cards. In fact, if you wanted something for your own collection, there's nothing wrong with that. It's completely above board. If people ask me, we had this conversation, I'm not going to have no comment. I'll explain the whole thing, that this was not a shill. Because I would have wanted to win the card, or somebody would have wanted the card. So the defensive is to protect my friend, and sometimes it's to protect yourself. And there's so many solutions to this that are proxy. And the proxy stuff is probably undetectable if you're a real criminal, because you don't give it to your wife that has your same last name. You give it to somebody, or you create an alter ego or something. And so I think you can get away with it if it's not suspicious bidding activity. And I'm talking about defensive. So it's not propping up the price. It's going for less than half what everybody thinks it's worth. But for whatever reason, nobody's seeing it. It's quite a bargain. And I'm thinking, gee, I would buy that myself. But I'm hesitant because, there's reputational damage and all that stuff. So I don't think that's nearly as bad. It still may not be kosher, but it's not nearly as bad to do things like that. So I've tried to figure out who is, and some of this proxy stuff can go bad. I could have I've had situations where there was $1,000 card. It never got above 500. And I thought, gosh, I think he's got $500 in it. Do I need to protect him? Well, is that a shill? On the other hand, if I called a friend and said, hey, buy that card, it's going to go for $500. It's worth $1,000. Then the guy, that's not shill bidding. And then he wins it for $500. And then I call him up later and I said, hey, that's great. Thank you so much. And he said, well, thank you. I love having this card in my collection. I was like, well, wait a minute. I thought you were going to buy it. And then I was going to buy it back from you because I'm trying to protect my friend. And he goes, oh, no. I thought about it. I thought, I really like this. It's a great price. I'm just going to have it. So there's no honor among thieves. Okay. Yeah. So, and not that he could extort me. Now, I never did this, but I'm just hypothetically saying that if you turn somebody on to a good deal that you just happen to know about because you were the consignor, then they could say, I'll take it from here and I'm good to go. And then he'd put it maybe on a different auction that had greater visibility and got the maximum price. Okay, so what I come down to, and this is the tie-in to Chris Hoge, is that who is damaged by this? Where is the harm? If it's criminal, the person can go to jail. If it's civil, who's the plaintiff? Who's saying you wronged me? Now, it could be the underbidder in this over thing, but who's harmed when it's defensive shill? When I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't go for a steal of something where the auctioneer, and they wouldn't let me pull it out. So I've got to go. What am I going to do? I can't bid. If I call a friend, that's sort of shilling too. So I'm just miserable here. But who is damaged? My thesis is, Chris Hoge, is that the damage on both sides, anybody who is relying on unedited comps, is damaged. If the comp is artificially low because of an inappropriate, poor, mislisted auction that went for way low than it should have, and we kind of know what cards should go for, or the traditional shill bidding, the offensive, the very heinous, puffing something up, and then either one of those puts an unrealistic, improper comp that if you just go straight to eBay and see what it sold for, you may be fooled because it's not. And the same thing came up. A version of that came up with the Paul Skenes card. In that, is that a true comp for what a collector would pay for that card when it was not bought by a collector? It was bought, as Chris says, with a hefty dose of marketing spend,
right,
for the corporate entity that bought that. Well, it doesn't just mess up that card. It messes up the ecosystem and the ripple effect that Card Ladder has done such a great job on. If you throw that data in there, it makes all the other Skenes cards look either undervalued or that particular one is overvalued, which is what I believe. And my point to Chris and to the audience is that I lived in that space back in the 70s and the 80s. I mean, we were doing price guides, but really it was, even then it was about comps. Now it wasn't digital comps. It wasn't scraping eBay that much. It was going to the shows, talking to the dealers, being in the LCSs and things like that, and seeing firsthand what it was selling for and what it wasn't selling for. And so really comps were a big part of it. We didn't call it that. It was just sales data. And where I went beyond that, which also factors in that I wanted to discuss with Chris, is that we also looked at what wasn't selling, or something that was visibly, readily available for sale at a listed price and passed by at a huge show. And nobody the whole weekend touched it. That is where I got off the rails with Mr. Mint. Mr. Mint said, I make the market. I control all the 52s from the find. And so if I say I'm selling them for this, then that is the market. End of story. I said, well, that's not the end of story, Al. I go to shows and I see them available in the same condition. And some of them are ones that they got from you wholesale. Okay. So the secondary market, the tertiary market, whatever, I can see that they're available at less than what you're saying. There's maybe a Mr. Mint premium that you have. Well, he didn't like that, but he had a marketing increment that was added to some of his cards too. So the comps. So at any rate, the whole point of shill bidding is it does damage to our ecosystem, and unless you've got a service like Card Ladder or other kinds of price guides that take that into account, it makes market manipulation ripe. And I hate that. My whole reason for existence in the hobby was to make a level playing field, and I really tried to do that. And anybody that's doing that, to me, that's the criminal part. It's damaging everybody.
Let me ask a question. A couple of things there. I love how the name of Dr. Beckett's podcast is Sports Card Insights. It's right there beside his name. Make sure you're listening to that if you're not already. But that was some great insight there, Jim. And one thing that I want to follow up on was the poor listing scenario where the consignment company makes a mistake or whatever, maybe a poor picture of the item, that sort of thing. And then the consignor is watching their item maybe perform, poorly, and they're getting worried. So obviously I would never, ever condone bidding on your own item. That is against our rules, our ethics in this hobby. But you presented an interesting scenario where you call up your friends and say, hey, Joe, this card, I don't know if you're interested in it, but maybe this might go for a good deal. you see people doing this all the time on social media, on Instagram, and that they'll say, hey, this card is available for sale on whichever platform, go check it out. They're bringing attention to it because the auction company didn't do a good enough job. I don't think there's anything wrong with sharing the information that your card is out there for sale, and you might even say it's underperforming because there's an issue with the title and it's too late to change it. I don't have an issue with that. Calling your friend and saying, hey, you might want to go buy this card, and then they decide that they decide they want to buy it and they keep it. There's nothing. I don't see anything wrong with that, right? Because
my friends are not in the hobby, so they're not tracking it. They're trusting me, and it's not that I betrayed their trust, but I had a code of ethics that didn't allow me to do what was best for them. And so and I'm trying to explain to them, it went for what it went with. They said, well, you said it was going to go for more. I said, well, they left out one word. They left out one word, or they it was a refractor and they didn't say it was a refractor. And so that, went for way less. And I didn't want to, and they go, well, that's not shill bidding, because they don't perceive that as shill bidding. They just think that was a mistake, and I've got egg on my face. I've also had a situation, I'm not going to out, it's not one of my auction sponsors, but I had an auction on one of these situations where I did not make a phone call. And please don't anybody deduce who this is, but I did not make a phone call to a friend, hey, these things are going really low. The auction house did.
And they do that. I think
they called their cronies.
What's a crony? Are the cronies their co-conspirators, or are they their best customers?
It's not even an organized conspiracy. I'm just saying they called their buddies and said, look, this is a really good collection we got out there. We don't have as many catalogs out there. These things are going too low. Okay, so they didn't buy them at retail. They bid it up just high enough that nobody else could really scoop it. They got the bids up to half price, 2/3 price maybe. So it was a really, really good deal for some really good stuff. And I thought, well, again, I don't think that's illegal, but I think I know who, and these were people that had gone and previewed the auction items. And they were regular customers of this auction.
Got it.
And so they kind of divvied it up, and I didn't think that was fair. So again, it's not, would I have been the bad guy? But again, I wouldn't have tried to buy it. I just thought when it's sitting there at 1/4 of the price, it ought to, yeah.
Let's Joe's been listening and always has some great things to add in. Joe, respond to Dr. Beckett's thoughts. Angst. Yeah, I mean, he, like us, he hates shill bids. It's not acceptable in our hobby. We know this. We've talked about this before on the channel, but we have him here tonight and wanted to get his thoughts. And Joe, what do you think of everything that Jim has mentioned so far?
He's speechless.
I don't have a whole lot of experience to draw upon here, other than maybe I feel like maybe about 15 years ago, I would list vintage base eBay, and I would fetch very strong prices, and they weren't high end, but 50s and 60s Mays and Aaron, and what I felt like was perfectly comped, if not sometimes higher than I expected to get. And I'm not sure if this is a trend that's been observed. I tend to notice that a lot of best off, they're not necessarily out there. And sorry if my computer is lagging here, but anyway, that's a curious, and I think it reflects sort of the site's faith in certain auctions, and then sellers having to kind of adjust in how they're selling something by making sure that they're not, that the item isn't going to just elevator shaft in the moment of truth And but that's kind of my window into this, is just as an eBay seller. I just feel more comfortable these days, whereas 10 or 15 years ago, I felt pretty strong that I could just put it out there. Now I feel like I need to protect it with a buy it now price and best offer.
Which does help you avoid any shill bidding as well, because there's no bidding at all. So I would say I hear you. You were in and out a little bit, but I think we got the gist of it.
There are some auction houses that allow buyback bidding. You can buy back your own stuff. It's not prohibited, but that means you've got to pay coming and going the buyer and seller commission. So they're not going to, they will allow that. You're going to pay the heavy commission, but you're going to get they're going to ship back your card. But it's expressly allowed in certain things because there's nobody, and again, it's not in a situation where you're overpaying or, it's when it's like I said, it's more defensive. I just feel bad because I've let my friends down in situations where I was not powerless, but my bag of tricks or my bag of remedies was not sufficient. I guess that's what I would say. I mean, I could, other than doing things that are, I don't think illegal, but questionable ethically.
Yeah, this format where you're allowed to buy your own items back and bid on them, that's interesting. I didn't know that was out there at all.
They have to say that it's in place.
Is it by state or is it by?
No, not by the auction. You're allowed to. But you have to publish that. Oh. Otherwise, it's fraud. Because there's an assumption that you're not going to bid on your own stuff. And sometimes that's expressly legal, but the shill bidders, they're not paying attention to the legalese. They're finding a workaround to beat the system. And I don't know that they're getting caught. If it's, some of these, it's like Jeremy used to be an accountant. Is it material? In some cases it really is. And some of the cards that Chris and Joshua and Christina are tracking are big boy cards, kind of like that Shoeless Joe.
I have to say, I owe a big thank you to Card Ladder. I was on their website for hours a day because I didn't just research the Shoeless Joe card. I researched every important iconic card in arriving at my thesis that yes, this card is deserved of the amount that I'm willing to go up to. And then I went even higher than that. And that on the fly, I just had to rely on all the information that I had along the way. And just for everybody listening, when Dr. Beckett is saying that, he's mentioned Chris Hoge a few times because Chris is one of the founders of Card Ladder. And so when you're saying that, Jim, you are referring to the integrity of comps because they are the purveyor of comps in a lot of ways, and it's a great service, and I use it all the time.
I'm saying that Chris is the chief compologist.
Compologist, I like that.
He's the preeminent compologist now. Now I used to be, but I'm retired now.
Yeah.
I just throwing one more thought in. I do think it's wonderful that they allow you to see if it was an auction or a buy it now sale. And I'm curious, Dr. Beckett, do you distinguish much between those two types of sales? Like, watching the vlogs of shows, I'll hear some sellers say, well, that was a buy it now. So that I expect that to be higher than a closed auction sale. Do you have any distinction in your mind when you're looking at sales of that nature?
Well, I'd ask Chris what he thinks, except that I think the private sales are the ones that bother me. Private sales, especially when they'll show you a canceled check or they'll show you the check and I'm thinking, so what?
Yeah.
So if it's a public auction and with a reputable auction house but the crooks can beat any system. If the more light that's put on it, the better. Okay. And Chris is bringing some of those things to light, following up, checking. We did the same thing. It was much smaller in those days, but and again, Chris is not checking every single card. It's the ones that stand out. It's the ones that are potential outliers. You just can't throw them out of hand. You need to investigate because it might be a new high score, a new standard, a new threshold. But also it might be funny business.
He's joined the studio. So why don't we bring him on?
I was counting on that.
All right, here he is. Let's bring out Chris Hoge from Card Ladder. Welcome back, Chris. Good to see you. It's been a week. How are you?
I'm stepping in as the middle reliever.
But you're coming back to close too, so you're pulling double duty tonight.
Indeed. The chief combologist is here.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe it's time to change that Instagram handle again. So you've been listening to what we've been talking about. Do you want to open up with a few words? But then I want to go back to Jim to maybe present you with any of his ideas or questions, or to feel you out on some of the stuff.
No, I don't really have any follow-ups. I thought you guys had a nice discussion, and whatever's up next, let's do that.
All right, so let's go back to you, Jim. Anything that you want to specifically, just throw his way and see what he thinks. One of the things was the difference between the amount that the hobby should rely on a comp that is based on an auction that is listed properly versus a buy it now. Do we put more stock into either of those comps, or one versus the other, or are they all to be taken in the same way? Do you have a thought on that, Chris?
Yeah, I do. And it gets into the mechanics of each transaction. So a buy it now requires a negotiation back and forth between a buyer and a seller. Sometimes there's really not much negotiating at all. It's just the seller posts it at a price and the person buys it. Sometimes there's an offer and there's a little bit of back and forth. But you sort of get to a point where you could argue that the buyer paid their max. But in the context of an auction, the mechanism is different. And in the context of an auction, the price is determined not by the maximum bid of the winner. Instead, it's determined by the maximum bid of the second highest bidder. That's the person who sets the price, and the winning bidder is one increment above that. So you could end up in the context of auctions having situations where the winning bidder would have paid twice as much if there had been a competitor there who was going to drive them up to that price. But because they didn't, they got it for lower. However, that's an oversimplification, because you can also get situations, and I've been in this situation myself as a collector, Jeremy, you were in this situation, I think, on Thursday night, where you'll say my max is X and I ain't going over it. And then you get into the heat of the auction and you're in extended bidding, and all of a sudden your competitor has gone over your max, and then you throw your max out the window and you say, I'm going higher now, because partially the juices are flowing and I'm in the heat of the auction. And then also on the other side, in the fixed price context, it's also possible that you have a shrewd buyer who just actually comes in and negotiates really effectively, and they actually do get to buy it from the seller for much less than their max. They were just able to achieve that because they were a good negotiator. So these are two different types of transactions. They have different mechanisms that underlie them. I don't think there's any hard and fast takeaways like Joe was kind of talking about. Well, dealers or people at shows might throw out the buy it now and they only want to rely on auction. I don't think it's that simple. I think you really have to scrutinize every comp and take the full context of every comp into consideration.
And you mentioned something really interesting there that we don't know. We often say, or you'll hear people say, a card is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. Well, what if my max bid on that Joe Jackson was $50,000 higher than the underbidder? Well, I was willing to pay in that case, say $200,000, but I get it for $150 because the next highest bidder was $145. So the value of a card isn't always what someone's willing to pay for, because the world won't know what someone was willing to pay for it. I buy cards on eBay all the time. I win them for $30-$40, but my high bid's $175 because I mega bid. I want to get the card. Is it worth $175 or is it worth $30 or $40? Because that's what I win it for. I don't know the answer to that. What do you think about that, Jim? What do you think the answer to that one is?
Well, if I were Chris's age, I'd be doing what Chris is doing, but I'm not. So I did what I did. And back in the day,
Sounded like he's looking for a job, Chris.
the beauty of what I did back in the day was first with annual price guides, and then especially with monthly price guides. All we had to do is try our best to get it right that month, knowing that if we're low or we're high in the perception of the dealers or the collectors, there's going to be a recalc, and there'll be, again, for some of these big cards, they don't come around that much, but the market, the secondary market corrects. You know, the laws of economics are not mocked for long. So eventually things come back to what it would be. So if there's a perception that you got an especially good deal on that, and again, you know, the problem you have, Chris, same problem I had, is that there are no true, exact, perfect comps. Even your card there, Jeremy, that you got, that's a comp, that not even an accurate comp for that card tomorrow necessarily. People are going to look at it as a fixed comp, that this is the number, because depending on whether you put a buy it now on it or you put it up for auction, you're probably not going to do anything. But it will not go for the same price. There's going to be buyer and seller sentiment that gets into it. And even the exact same card, even if it's another 1.5 Shoeless Joe, that's for sure not a comp, or not an accurate comp without adjustment.
Yeah.
And so anyway, when I was doing monthly price guides, we did our best, put it to bed, got the feedback, did it again the next month, did it again the next month, did it again the next month. And many of these things we're talking about were probably annual. Because they just did. In fact, if we would have tried to track some of those cards every month, they would have just stayed the same and then had a blip, had a big jump up. And that's probably troubling. And yet they didn't go up linearly. They went up when something happens. Like Chris said, when you get two passionate collectors with deep pockets and they want the card, they don't care. They don't care. But like I said, the shill bidding and some of this extreme auction passionate behavior wreaks havoc with the ecosystem and the structure of pricing within the hobby, that if it's too chaotic, people throw up their hands and say, this makes no sense. You know, Chris is trying to have it make sense. I was always trying to have it make sense. You say, okay, well, this, and there are exceptions, but you need to be able to explain the exceptions. And we generally could. And I think, Chris, you do a great job of that.
Very nice. Very nice to share that. And I just want one comment in the chat here came up from Let's Go Jordan. He says, hold on, Jeremy, you are the bugger that was bidding against me on the shoeless. I saw it in person and wanted it. It is spectacular. Amazing set. Well, not only that, Let's Go Jordan, but during the show on Thursday, I saw you say that someone's bidding you up on the shoeless. And I'm like, well, I knew it was you at that point. And I also know that when I bid, I mean, the card sold for $150,000 with buyer's premium all in. And my high was going to be like, I wanted to max out at 95 plus BP, but I went up to, in my mind, I went up to 100. Then I went to 125 in the heat of the moment. And I actually bid 120. And then I bid again to 125 to increase my max. And I believe at that point, Let's Go Jordan bid 125, but saw that he wasn't the winner. At that point, I was, and then there were no more bids. I thought, okay, I think I've scared him or whoever it was off at that point at 125 because they now know that that's the other guy's max if there's only one other guy, and they didn't make any further bids, and then it ended, and I was just like, oh, thank God, because at that point, if I didn't win, I would have been also like, okay, I don't have to, sacrifice a big chunk of my collection. But I also really wanted it, so I was glad. But yes, that was me. Let's Go Jordan, and I'm very, very excited to add that card.
Jeremy, you do know that's a sports card insight. When you're in the late stages of an auction and you do a double bump, that can sometimes have that effect.
I think it did this time. I mean, Jim,
You can't do it every time, but when you do it at late stages, it's worked for me on some much less, much smaller items.
well, in preparing for this, I'm using Fund Your Cards to buy it for me and pay them off over, with cards. So I talked to Mark from Fund Your Cards. I said, do you have any advice on the bidding? Because I want to do the bidding myself. I don't want you to bid for me. I want to do my own bidding here. And we talked through this. Joe and I talked through this quite a bit. I talked to Adam Gray, who's got experience bidding on big cards on Fanatics Collect, and seeked out his advice as well. So I think I was prepared. But the funny thing is, and let's go, Jordan might not want to hear this, is that when I upped my bid that second time, I didn't even I did it, but in the moment, I thought that I had to. I thought that I wasn't the winning bidder. Don't forget, I'm running the show. I'm doing the show, and after being locked out of my Fanatics Collect account, I had to do the whole password reset thing while I was streaming the show and running and the chat and Adam Gray and describing. I did a deep dive on a Gretzky OPG rookie while I'm going through the password reset thing. So I was going through all sorts of weird emotions, and I kind of got lucky in a way that I made that double bump, or that whatever you called it.
You're proving that you are worthy of that great card.
Thank you.
It was meant to happen. All this adversity, you worked through it. You stepped up. Congrats.
Thank you. All right. Chris, thank you for jumping on. Unless you and Jim want to say anything about Luka, because Chris has left Dallas, but you're still there, Jim, and you're both Luka fans. Anything you want to say to Chris about that situation?
I have a question for Dr. Beckett on this. I listened to the Sports Card Insights episode about the AI Luka rant. Just were you getting something off your chest there, or was that just all AI?
No, it's ChatGPT 4.0. And it was one quick query. 5 seconds later, I asked for 200 words from a crazed, schizophrenic Mavs fan and I just said the Luka fiasco, and it's a cautionary tale. It shows that these large language models don't use yesterday's news, and so it was outdated on a number of things. But they still got a lot of angst. I have some angst, but I am keeping my season tickets. 34 years of being a Mavs fan. It's not so easy to say I'm moving to LA or Wisconsin or any other thing that, because like I say, I'm pretty set now, but I'm very disappointed, trying to make sense of it. I'm a loyalist. Roberto Clemente was always a Pirate after they stole him from the Dodgers. But it's a sad day, and the city's still messed up.
Sad story.
When he comes back, are you? I don't know. Y'all are still here for a little bit longer.
Nah, we're out.
Okay, at any rate, when he comes back with the Lakers next month,
April 9th.
I think. Yeah. Okay. He will be not only not booed,
right?
He will be cheered, and the chanting will be against Nico.
Yeah.
I don't think there's the same. You have you're down on Kid. I don't think the general fans are as much, but they're super down on Nico and also I think Patrick Dumont, those guys. So, sad day. I wanted him to be Dirk Jr.
Yeah, we all did. I think. Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right.
Well,
see you a little bit later, Jeremy.
Okay,
Thanks
Chris.
for popping in, Chris.
Thanks for popping on, bud. Thank you for popping on. And Jim, I want to respect your time. It's 10 o'clock Central right now. Is that it for you?
That's it for my wife. That's my deal. And like I said, I really honored to be on. Enjoyed visiting with you guys, Joe, Chris, and you, Jeremy, and hearing your news. Just it's a great hobby. And there's there's highs and lows, but mostly highs.
Let's bring okay, we have Leighton Sheldon and Tony Southern Collector both going to be joining us pretty much at the same time tonight. We don't usually do it this way, but just the way the schedule worked out, we did. But I want to bring them both on right now, Jim, just so they can say hi to you and you can say hi to them before you jump on. So let's bring on, there's Leighton. Welcome, Leighton. And there is Tony Southern Collector. Guys, say hi to Dr. Beckett, and then we'll let him go.
Okay, so
Jim, how are you?
I'm on the same screen as Dr. Beckett. And so 12-year-old me is like in shock right now. I know you're shaking your head. You're a very humble guy, but this is incredible. So I'm not worthy.
Okay, well, I'm not worthy either.
Right.
It's a great hobby, and it's you can be immediate friends with somebody with sharing a love of cards and stuff.
Exactly.
No doubt.
And it's the only hobby where you're really allowed to covet.
That's right.
So right now, Jeremy's got the bragging rights.
Well, I got to get the card in hand still, and have to. So I've secured it. But that's the biggest. That was the biggest part of the whole thing. So
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
all right, Jim. Thank you for
Okay,
joining.
thanks, guys.
We'll have
Good
you
to
back
see you.
sooner this time than we took getting you back. I think this is your 6th time on the show. Well, number 7 will come sooner.
Yeah, you get if you host Saturday Night Live 5 times, you get a jacket.
Okay, send me your size. It's coming in the mail.
Good deal. Thanks,
All right.
guys. Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for joining us. All right. Well, hey, Tony, guys, we got a double guest change here. All of a sudden, we go from Chris Hoge and Dr. Beckett to Southern Collector 14 Tony and Leighton from Just Collect. So this is going to be a little challenging for me. We've never done this before, and I want to give you both as much airtime and discussion time as we can. And there's so many comments that have come through already. I want to get to some of those. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to keep Leighton. You're going to be with us for the next half hour. Tony, you're going to be with us for about the next hour. And I think towards the second half of that, we will go to some comments. So I'm going to save comments for then. But enough of that. We're going to start with you, Leighton, just because I had you on the schedule a little bit earlier. So welcome back. What's going on, buddy? How are you? You have something going on in Just Collect tomorrow, like an 11-hour live stream. What's happening over there?
We do, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. But congratulations on your Shoeless Joe. It's funny, Jeremy. I acquired a 15 Cracker Jack Shoeless Joe. I don't want to misspeak. Probably like a year-ish ago. And when I bought it, thankfully I bought it right. I bought it raw, slabbed it. I think it was a 2, and I knew right then. And you could see the way that I'm grinning. I knew right then, as much as I was happy with it, a few of the people that I'm close with were like, why are you going to sell it? And I knew right away. I'm like, oh, because I'm going to get a 14. And after you paid what you paid last night, I'll be honest, I think my chances of getting one are now limited to finding one out in the wild, right? Hopefully raw, just like I did with the 15. But congratulations, man. It's a great card.
Thank you. Were you bidding on that card, or were you watching it? Were you planning? Were you thinking about making a move?
Yeah, early on, Jeremy, yes. But when it got to the level that it did, I just wasn't comfortable, there. But I think that you should feel very comfortable, and you got an amazing card.
My response to that is, and listen, this isn't me coming at you, but I think it'll be something could be regretted down the road. I just think, yeah, I'm very pleased with it, and even at the price. I've been the guy who's broken the record on a card before. I've done it a few times in my hobby career, and it's like I said on Thursday, it's only ever worked out. When the right cards come along, you have to compete if you really, really want to secure them. Now, this is 7 times more than I've paid for a card ever in my whole life, so that's something that I'm still literally in shock about. And it wasn't, I went to bed that night, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't just excitement. It was also like a bit of panic. Like, okay, I have some very difficult decisions to make. And I'm going to have to give up some cards that I truly love. And that's not going to be fun. But Tony, all about the Cracker Jacks. You just did a whole profile on, well, I think more on the Black Sox scandal and all that. But I mean, you wanted to talk about Cracker. You have a 1915 Cracker Jack.
Yeah, I do.
Jackson.
I do. It's a beauty. It's right here. I like to show it off. So that's mine, and it's an authentic altered, and it's a 1915. But just like you said, you were glad it was a 1.5 and wasn't probably what it should have been, like a 4 if it didn't have that little wrinkle. Those low level numbers really help us get a card at a value price, in my opinion. I'm not a registry guy, so I couldn't care less. That doesn't matter to me. I just want the card. So me and you have two things in common. One is I researched the crap out of it before I bought it.
Yeah.
And number two is I set a new comp for an authentic altered 1915 when I bought mine. But if you're going to get those, it wasn't just you setting that comp. It was whoever was bidding against you. So that proves that it's worth what you paid for it, because somebody else was going to pay right at that same price too. So it's what you got there is an investment piece. It's an amazing card, and I want to congratulate you. That is amazing what you pulled off right there.
Thank you. Yeah. Not only did someone else bid the same amount I did that night, but like I said earlier in the show, 2 people have said they would like to buy it from me. One promised me the amount I paid. He's the consigner of the card, who is Patrick Ryan, and the other is a private collector who just said he, at the time, right? He had other commitments for his money, but he's willing. So 4 people were willing to pay that amount, and maybe even a bit more. So yeah, I'm very comfortable with the price. Extremely comfortable. I think it's an extremely undervalued card, and that's what my research led to that thesis, and I'm very pleased. And in a way, I want to apologize to Leighton a little bit, who's one of a guy that I talk to a lot. I want to apologize for not even letting you know or coming to you for advice, but I really kept it as close as I could to myself because I didn't want to, jinx it or, attract any more competition than I was already going to have. So,
yeah, I'm doing the same thing right now. There's one coming up that I really want. I'm not going to talk about it. There's only a few people I've shared that with, but like you, I'm going to have to make some big moves. They're going to shock some people with some cards I own, but that's what you got to do if you're going to get that big one.
And yeah, exactly. And another thing that I'll just, talk in my own person. I was watching all the other cards in the auction going, for like the Jacks, the Holiday and the Skenes cards doing a lot more. The Wemby logo man that did over $500,000 for a 1-of-1 logo man that isn't even game used. I thought to myself, this is a steal at 150 or whatever it's going to be compared to those cards. But then, as we talked about earlier with Dr. Beckett and Joe and Chris about, well, is it a real comp on the Skenes when it was really a marketing expense for Dick's Sporting Goods? It becomes, what do you think of that, Leighton? Where do you fall when you see that, or does it even, I guess it doesn't even really matter. Like, who cares that happened, that it went to Dick's Sporting Goods? It's a price that is so far and away kind of ridiculous that we don't even need to think about it when we are comping similar cards, if we are even doing that. But what are your thoughts on it, Leighton?
There's a lot wrapped up in there, but I don't think you can compare a 1-of-1 manufactured scarcity of either Paul Skenes or Wemby to an iconic treasure like a 1914 Cracker Jack Shoeless Joe Jackson. Completely different, major and minor leagues, A ball versus AAA, however you want to describe it, just a different situation. Yeah.
What about you, Tony, when you compare it to the other card? Because I even saw, I forget who posted it. It was a great post. It was Andy from Indie Card Exchange today posted on Instagram. Would you rather have the Paul Skenes 1-of-1 that Dick's Sporting Goods bought, or 5 of these? And that was a PSA 10 86 Fleer Jordan. Yeah. So it was almost five of the Jordan PSA 10s or 1 Skenes. Which would you rather have? When you look at it that way, it does. That's why I use the word kind of ridiculous. It makes me go there. What do you think of that, Tony?
No, I agree completely. The manufactured scarcity, to me, is false. I mean, and we don't know who was bidding against Dick's. It could have been some other corporate deal that was going to buy it. It could have been the Pittsburgh Pirates for all we know, and they were going to put it in their concourse and try to draw fans into their stadium. We don't know, and we will never know. So that card, look, that Shoeless Joe that you bought is 111 years old. It has built up that scarcity over time, and it's real. So, and I'm not saying the Skenes isn't real, but to me, it's a false scarcity. I guess that's a better word for me.
What about you, Joe? When you think about, what else you could buy for what the Skenes sells for? And do you have an opinion on, the fact that it was bought by Dick's? And one thing I want to say though, I'm so happy. Well, of course they're gonna publicize what they did, but I'd so much rather know that it wasn't a collector buying it, that it was a corporation buying it for marketing purposes. I'm glad we know that, because it does allow us to exclude it as what's beyond an outlier, an exclusion. Maybe it's an exclusion from the index of the hobby. What do you think, Joe, about it?
Well, first of all, welcome to the show, Tony. Thanks for being here. Good to be here. Yeah, I think I might be a little bit in this panel, which has deep vintage roots, and I do as well. But I might be a little more open to the idea of ultra modern one-of-ones having value. I think the challenge for me was just how little Skenes has done to establish himself as a player, and the extreme risk, especially with pitchers. Had it been a player that already had a decade, and we could firmly know that the Hall of Fame career was on a likely trajectory for that, I'd probably feel more confident. But intrinsically, I'm always going to lean vintage and true. I don't know if true scarcity is how I would put it. Maybe organic. And having stood the test of time, I think that's this is a card that as you were researching, Jeremy, it's been prioritized by collectors for decades upon decades. So I'm probably a little more on the player as opposed to just the concept of the card. And then in terms of the sporting goods store purchasing it, I don't really know what I think about that. I mean, in some ways, I think I've heard a few people being critical, and I could see that maybe a better narrative would be a collector that is excited about it. But on the other hand, maybe you could look at it like sports cards are becoming iconic as almost a form of advertising. I don't know how I feel about that. That doesn't necessarily sit well with me, but I have to think about it more, because there could be a way where that draws attention to the hobby, and that might be a positive thing.
That's a good point right there. I mean, it should, especially in Pittsburgh where the card will be on display, that could lead to more, even if it adds one collector to our hobby, a true collector who loves this space, or for Leighton, maybe someone says, oh yeah, I've got my grandfather's baseball cards from the attic. Who am I gonna, I got to go find someone to take them off my hands. Maybe they find Just Collect and they reach out to you, Leighton, or something like that. Like, I know that maybe that sounds like a bit of a stretch, but things happen. You never know what's going to lead from one thing to another. So it's always fun to think about these sorts of things.
Can Leighton, I fire one question back at you, and maybe just share with the audience? One of the considerations we had when you were talking about the Shoeless Joe card was, if you didn't win it, would you even reveal that you had been going after it? Because you probably at that point would have wanted to hunt another one down the line. Did you ever arrive at a conclusion to that question?
Well, if I was a collector that didn't have a platform, maybe I would, to my close inner circle. But if I put it out there, to a couple thousand people, I wouldn't want there to be more competition the next time it became available. So I don't know that I would have actually talked about it. But then if it doubled in price and it was way out of reach for me, maybe I would have, and then I might have shared my thesis on it and my research. Like, my research, there was a lot, but this was one of the key pieces of my research, was what I consider to be many of the most important cards in the history of the hobby. I even have I have the Star 101 Jordan on here. I've got obviously the Honus Wagner and the 1915 Cracker Jack and the E90-1 Joe Jackson that I know Leighton has a copy of. I thought long and hard about the E90-1, the caramel card. I thought long and hard about that because the Cracker Jack isn't a rookie card. That's a knock against it, right? The E90-1 is the earlier card.
Yeah.
But I was still willing to, just like the way the 52 Topps Mantle isn't the rookie card, it doesn't really matter. And one of the big things for me is the Americana and the seventh inning stretch song that is sang at every ball game, at every stadium forever. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack, like that. It's tied in, and it's the first Cracker Jack set. It's among, if not the best card in the set. It just seemed to me like as important to the hobby as the Honus Wagner T206. And I know it's a big statement, but that's where my research led me to. I think it's as important. Now, I know it's not as iconic. There's different things, but I feel that it is. I went out. I really extended myself here, guys, to acquire this card, and that's how much I believe in. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm not just pulling this out of the clouds. I did a lot. I mean, Joe can attest for me. I did a ton of research, and Tony, you did research yourself.
I did
as well. What can I ask you? What kind of research did you do? And then I want to go back to you, Leighton. Joe was a part of this the whole way. I want to come back to you, Leighton. Like, do you still conduct research? Okay, let's start with Tony, then I'm going to come to you. What was your research like, Tony?
So what I did, I looked at the pop count. I always do that. But, pop counts can be a little deceiving. So I looked up yours, for example, for this show, and the sale before yours was an SGC4. And if I'm going to look at eye appeal, because that's a big deal to me, and it is to collectors in general, that SGC4 sold for $116,000 on February 16th. But yours has better eye appeal. Now, sure, it has a little crease, but if I got to get a loop to find it, I don't care. I mean, so yours is a better looking card, so you paid a better price for it. So comps can be deceiving. If I just look at numbers, it doesn't really tell the whole picture. So when I was buying mine, just for an example with me, and I was looking at that, and it was authentic altered. And I even heard Dr. Beckett say a minute ago, you wouldn't want an A. That's old school thinking to me. I don't care about an A, because when I look at these Cracker Jack cards, for example, I've got this Joe Luteris, and it is a 1914. It's raw. I broke it out of the case just because I wanted to see how thin it was. I wanted to feel it in my fingers. That is how I look at things. And then I've got this raw 1915 home run Baker, and I was able to compare them. Let me get it here. And you could see, and when you put the light up to the thinner one, I can hold this thin one and I can shake it. It's a little bit thinner than a dollar bill, or a little bit thicker than a dollar bill. It's not going to fall over when I hold it out straight, but it flops. The 15 doesn't flop as much. It's a thicker paper stock, but it is still razor thin. So that's the kind of stuff I looked at. So when you see these broke off pieces, it looks like a rat ate the corner off of it. That ain't what it is. That's a 110-year-old paper that got brittle and it broke off. That's what that is. So that kind of stuff turns me on, man. So the Paul Skenes, that's cool. That thing came out of a pack. Somebody stuck it in something and saved it and made it perfect. This right here was pulled out of a pack of Cracker Jacks by a little kid or a dad, handed it to a kid, and that thing has survived 110 years that thin with some Cracker Jack stains on it. So it's the story of the set. It's the story of the player. I mean, you don't get no better on a story than Shoeless Joe Jackson. I mean, that's killer. My first episode, and I'm getting real passionate right here. My first episode I ever did on my YouTube channel was my Shoeless Joe Jackson episode. And my third one was my Cracker Jack episode. So you're hitting me right in my wheelhouse right here. But I looked at all that. I looked at the comps, and I'll go over that later if you want to, because I've done some research for that. But I don't want to hog this, so we'll save that for when Leighton's off here. I'll let you go to Leighton next.
Thank you, and love your passion, Tony. This is just great, and we have something very special in common now as well, Leighton. So anything else you want to respond to is great, but also I'm curious because you are a professional baseball card treasure hunter. This is what you do, and are you still, like, as seasoned as you are in what you do? Do you still come across cards where they could be when they're worth significant money and the seller, knows what they are. And of course, you're going to let them know what they have. But do you ever have to spend a lot of time researching? How much research do you do? And like, how do you approach these things when it could be a big, or even if you were going to go for this particular card that I ended up purchasing, do you do research or do you already know enough? Where are you at with that?
No, research is definitely my friend. I think one of the hardest things for me when I'm buying a collection, guys, is trying to keep out of it that I'm a collector. Because the moment that emotion comes in, you're like, I could pay 20% more. What's the difference if I don't eat for a month or I pay my staff? So I think that's, one of the things I wanted to share. As far as research, Jeremy, I'm similar to Tony that and you, Jeremy, I not only look at the pop. Remember, I have people call every day with a card to sell, or to be fair, they want to buy a card from me and they want to convince me, as to why I should sell it for a certain price. And a lot of times, Tony, what happens is they're talking in generalities. In other words, when they want to buy a card from me that I don't want to sell at their price, all they're doing is referencing comps. The last 6 sold for whatever. They could care less, Tony, what the card looks like. And I just understand what that kind of individual is and how to talk to them versus someone like yourselves. And I'm not saying that we're better or lesser. It just is just a different way of thinking. And so what I've found is when I buy cards, because I have that still collector mentality, I think it's part of the reason why I'm also successful at buying these big collections. Because there is not only the emotion and the excitement, but there's also the reality of understanding that if you just always look at things in black and white as a dealer, you might lose some of that allure and the beauty and maybe sometimes have to overpay. But when you actually understand it as a true collector, you're not really overpaying. So it really has helped me a lot. But it definitely makes my job harder. And candidly, as I told you just a few minutes ago, Jeremy, I had a 15 Cracker Joe Jackson. I would have been pleased with it to hold for a long time, but I did. I sold it knowing I'd be going after one. And to be clear, I'm still going to try to. I just think that, the sale has made it a little more challenging. But as Tony just stated a couple minutes ago, if you want to go for like a lesser version, meaning not necessarily lesser grade, because that 4, which sold for less than your 1.5, doesn't mean that card's no good. Just means maybe the eye appeal wasn't exactly there. So I think what's happening for me, Jeremy, is the line of, hey, I'm going to get a gorgeous 1.5 with eye appeal. And this is what I wanted to kind of pose the question to not just the 3 of you, but to anyone watching right now. At what point does that mentality change for you? Meaning it's changing for me right now. In other words, I'm worried if I hold out for the most beautiful example, like Jeremy's 1.5, first of all, is it going to happen? Second of all, if it does, what am I going to pay? So should I just be astute right now and try to buy on value? So in other words, let's just say, for example, an SGC comes up, and because it doesn't quite sell for what PSA often sells for, and maybe it's a little bit off-centered, or who knows what the issues are, would you accept something like that? And I'm struggling with it. I don't know, but that's what I wanted to pose to you guys.
Well, for me, it comes down to eye appeal. I don't really care what the grade is on the slab. I take it into consideration, but I value my own opinion on a card much more than a professional grader's opinion. It's about eye appeal for me. I am very pleased. So the card that I bought used to be in an SGC 2.5 holder. Patrick Ryan purchased it and had it crossed over to PSA. And I'm glad he did because it came down in grade. I think that's great. I love that it's a PSA 1.5. I love that it's in a PSA holder. I also love that I know that that my copy has been it's been blessed by both the SGC and the PSA grader. That's two professional opinions on the authenticity. The fact that it isn't trimmed, it's authentic that way. It's not altered. And Tony, nothing. I would have been happy if this was altered and I could have paid half price. I would have been just as happy. Let me tell you that. Okay, I'm willing to add altered cards to my collection in extreme cases like this. In this case, I didn't. But so for me, yeah, Leighton, it really comes down to what the card looks like. The grade is a consideration. In my case, again, two grading companies, the two most reputable and experienced, got to look at this card, and it's publicly documented as well that it used to be an SGC 2.5. So that's great too. Anyway, so that's where I fall. You asked the question kind of like where does it turn for you? It doesn't. I would rather have my 1.5 than an off-centered 7. You know what I mean? Or yeah, I would. I'd much rather have this copy than I looked at all the comps, all the cards that sold previously, the SGC 4s and all these things, and none of them in my mind compare to this one aesthetically. So very pleased with it. And I think that the grade might have saved me some money, but I'll let us go over to Tony for his response. So then we'll go to Joe, and we have Brad Hartland, who is the head of PSA Canada, who's going to be coming on the screen as soon as Leighton leaves in a few minutes. But let's finish this discussion, then we'll do that. So Tony, over to you.
Yeah, so there's value. You got to take into account value and then eye appeal. So I'm always looking at, there's that kind of like that hot girl, married girl graph thing people were talking about. There's crazy and then there's hot, and you try to find somebody in the middle. Well, that's how it is with graded cards with me. If I can find a 1.5 or a 1 that looks like a 6, I'm all about it, man. That's saving me money. You may pay a little bit of the eye appeal tax, but it's not gonna get to there. So that's the ideal. Now on these Cracker Jacks, it gets kind of weird because SGC, they don't do an authentic unless it's trimmed. So you can have one with the corner, again, it looks like a rat chewed the corner off, and it's going to get a 1. And some people would value that one over my authentic because it was trimmed across the top. I don't. And then listen, if that's how you collect, that's cool. That's not me. I want a nice eye appeal card. I didn't trim the thing. I knew when I bought it that it was authentic. Now, here's the crazy part of 14 Cracker Jack Joe Jack or Ty Cobb. If you measure this Ty Cobb and you measure this, they measure out exactly the same. Whoops. They are measuring the same. So I don't know. Maybe the Ty Cobb was trimmed. I don't know. But they measured, they're both a heavy 32nd short on the height. So I've had people just like you, Jeremy. You said people have asked you, you're going to crack it out and resubmit it. No, I ain't. I don't care. I'm not going to pay for that. I'm fine looking at it, man. It turns me on to pick that slab up and look at it. That's one of my favorite cards.
Love the grade. The card is the card. Exactly. I could get a different grade on a different day. I have a feeling if this card goes back to PSA, it's going to go to the senior graders there, and they already know what they graded it at, so it's going to come back the same. There's no way no one else needs to touch that card. It's encapsulated. It's good. One thing that I also did, Joe, I've never held these cards in hand like you just did, Tony, as you're shaking them and giving the chat a conniption out there. I was asking, what does this thing feel like? I actually asked Chat GPT. I said, can you tell me what they didn't do a great job, but Joe, you had a better, sense of what, like just how thin it was, because that's a concern that it's so much thinner. But let's go to you, Joe, to answer the Leighton question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I say I'm in line with the panel. The thought came to my mind, do you choose the card or does the card choose you? And sometimes I would say I'm not the collector that targets a specific issue, but when a specific issue presents itself to me that I'm aware of and already have an appreciation, I say that's the card I want to own. That specific version of, let's say a 54 Topps Hank Aaron. Because when you see enough of these cards, you realize that something that stands out from an aesthetic standpoint is truly valuable, regardless of the grade. And so I think, Jeremy, that was embedded in your story. You did not have the 1914 Shoeless Joe on your want list. I know what your want list is. It was not on there. But when
there's the Honus Wagner T206 on my want list, but of course.
But when you saw this specific one, not only did you fall in love with the card, and then as you investigated more and researched more, kind of the mythology of Joe Jackson, the scarcity of the 1914 in conjunction with the 1915, the different, distribution processes. That's what lured you in, right? So I think that is a collector gene, that you kind of fall in love with that doggy in the window. You might not have been looking for a doggy, but you fall in love with the doggy in the window.
I also like that the 14s, the reverse is the right orientation. On the 15s, it's upside down. I like that about the 14s too. Let's go. Jordan here says, I saw the shoeless in person. It was legit as legit gets. And I mean, I got on the phone with someone at Fanatics Collect before, and I said, I need you to take me through this card. Like, what is wrong with this thing? Why is it a 1.5? And he's kind of lost as to why it was. But, that's great for me. That just means I'm going to save some money. Clemente Collector says, let Mike Baker put a sticker on it, right? Well, they, on their own, have kind of pre-approved it for a sticker. It hit their Instagram story today saying, MBA eye appeal candidate. So that's nice. Am I going to take him up on that? We'll see. I might. We will see. We will see. Leighton, before you go, I do want to just tell us a little bit about what you're doing on Just Collect tomorrow for 11 hours straight.
Oh, sure. So we're having the end of our big event for Vintage Breaks. And we're going to be streaming from noon to 11 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. And we're going to be opening up some fun stuff like, packs of 84 Donruss baseball, or 89 score football, or 78 Topps football. And then, of course, we have some set breaks and some other modern boxes as well. And then at 11 o'clock, we give out a bunch of prizes based on people's participation and such. And you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/vintage breaks.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Well, Brad Hartland, who runs PSA Canada, the Canadian arm of PSA, is in the back room. So we're going to do a guest swap. And Leighton, thank you for coming on and presenting the question. And I've been looking forward to talking to you. And I want to talk to you more about my recent, purchase. And but thank you for coming on. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys, and congrats again, Jeremy.
Thank you, man. All right, so let's just go ahead. We're going to bring out Brad, Tony, and I want you to meet Brad, and we're going to talk to him about some things, and we're going to just keep the show going. So, Brad, you ready to go? All right, guys, please welcome Brad Hartland to the show. And by the way, everybody, he is east of Eastern time, so it is very late for him. Brad, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Hey, Brad.
Bet. So yeah, say hi to them. Joe, please meet Brad. Tony, please meet Brad.
Hi, fellas.
Right.
Hey, Brad.
Tony, I will say, just to start off, your passion just had me very fired up and enthused to get that with you. I love seeing that, the positivity and just the passion that you showed for cardboard, even with the little flop. Just made my night.
Isn't that great?
Yes, man.
And guys, Tony has he's one of the up and comers, if you can say that, on YouTube. Kind of started more recently than many of the old timers, and has become a great part of the community. So if you're not yet following or subscribed to Southern Collector 14 on YouTube, go ahead and do that right now, or after the show, or in the morning, whatever you want. But make sure you check out Tony's, because it's a very educational channel and content, and I know I'm grateful for it. And your 2 episodes that touch on Joe Jackson were part of my research, so I want to thank you awesome. for that as well. Brad, it's great to have you. You're out on the Atlantic time zone in the Maritimes of Canada, where you run the PSA Canada operation. You're not just a drop-off or a bulk submitter. You are tied into PSA corporate. You have a relationship with the Nat Turners and the Ryan Hodges, and you're a part of the company. And you and I feel like we've been friends for about 4 to 5 years now. We've had dinners together at the National, and I mean, Joe said to me, he goes, so, I don't know Brad. I said, you're going to love him. Everybody loves Brad. He's just such a great guy, such a friendly guy. And it's great to have you on the show. What, I think I'll ask you, the first thing I'll ask you, Brad, is right now, PSA Canada operates out of Halifax, which, a lot of people in the US might not even have heard of Halifax. It's in Nova Scotia, but you guys are moving to Toronto. Can you talk about what's going on with PSA Canada right now?
Yeah, correct. We're in the process now of the build out of a new receiving center, which is going to be in Mississauga, which will be opening, we're hoping August, September is our goal. Very exciting for us. We've been in Halifax now prior to me joining Collectors. I took over from Len Potty, who, Jeremy, I know he ran PSA Canada as an authorized dealer, but they were a little bit more than that. We were allowed to use the PSA name. We represented them. We shipped on their account. We did a lot of things anyways. So he ran that for about 19, 20 years before I took over. So myself and wife Sherry, we did that for 3 years. Then we we formed a new company under the Collectors umbrella, which is owned by Collectors. It's PSA Canada. And the last 2 years doing this has been the most exciting time in my life. I absolutely love every moment that we have. I love the company. We're always evolving. We're changing. There's highs, there's lows, there's good times, bad times. Jeremy, we've had numerous conversations, and our most recent conversation was the one that meant the most to us, and that's why I was very excited to come on the show. And I enjoy it, and I appreciate that.
I've been tough on PSA. I've had my criticisms of PSA, and at the same time, you're my friend. I mean, like I consider you to be a friend of mine, and it's there's conflicting feelings when I'm being critical, and so it's. But there's friends, there's business, there's what we think about this hobby that we're also passionate about. It comes from a place of passion, and so that is what it is, I suppose. And I'm sure I'll have future criticisms as well. But I'll call you up. I'll say, Brad, what's the story here? What happened there? That kind of thing. And that's all good and fine, right? I mean, it's the way the world works, and it's great to have you here on the show for sure. I want to mention Len Potty, who you just mentioned. Len Potty is a legend in the vintage world in Canada. He's been set up at the Toronto Expo for probably 30 years, and at the National, wherever it's been in the States. A lot of you guys might not know Len Potty by name, but he's the guy with that purple velvet wall at his booth with all the cards up against the purple velvet wall. And he doesn't travel to the US anymore for shows, but he did up until how long ago, Brad? Maybe 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah. So a lot of you guys, even, in the States and going to the National, you will have seen Len Potty quite a bit. Brad, anything else like that you want to let us know? Because we do have Canadian viewers and listeners here. Just so people know, the Sports Cards Live audience, it breaks down to about 65-70% American and the rest Canadian, because we do have a Canadian audience here as well. But so anything else going on at PSA that you'd like to here we have Laura puts in the chat right here. Can Brad speak to the explosion of PSA and GameStop submissions? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so we're not involved with GameStop Canada at this time. It was something that I was excited to do a partnership with, but anyone that follows GameStop right now, the GameStop's currently going to separate their operations. They're looking to sell off their European operations plus the Canadian operations and just maintain the US one. So no, but it's been absolutely great for us as a company. The partnership that was put into place, I thought it was going to be successful. I didn't think to the magnitude, the amount of volume that we were getting. I know it's been publicly out there. GameStop did some marketing in the last week to see the actual volume of cards coming through it. It's quite astronomical when you see the amount of cards that we do get as a company. Every month, GemRate does a fantastic job of putting the numbers out, so it's no secret on what is coming through the doors. The TCG boom over the last 6 months has just been off the charts. We're currently getting, every day it's hundreds of packages coming in with thousands of cards. We're shipping 2 or 3 times a week now to the US for grading. I thought we might face a little bit of a slowdown towards the end of 2024. That was what I thought was going to happen. And that was completely wrong. It just every day, and it's everything, and it's vintage, it's modern cards, it's TCG. Obviously, like I said, is exploding, but it's really something to see, and we're hiring more. The big thing for Canadians that I'm very proud of is, we're going to be hiring 15 to 20 people with great jobs in Mississauga for the receiving center. We're going to be doing, I'm going to say 50 to 60% of the work that is done in the US is actually going to be done here in Canada, with my ultimate goal to have a full grading operation here. That's been my goal from day one. First of all, I wanted to have on-site grading at the Toronto Expo, and PSA never went outside the US to do a grading event like that. And we achieved that. Now we did it again, and now we're going to do it again in November. It's very exciting times for us as Canadians. Anytime we can eliminate friction from a person submitting. I know, Joe, Tony, you won't get to experience this as much, but you can imagine if the role was reversed and you had to ship your prized possessions across the border internationally, if you're shipping from Europe to the US, over the ocean, this stuff all plays into this, and it makes it a stressful time when it should be something that a collector wants to do. And the more times we can eliminate that friction, the better off the hobby is going to be. So this is something that I am very excited for, and I'll be moving to Toronto to run the operation, and we're investing heavily in it. We're building, a state-of-the-art facility, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a big move. It gets, even when I think about it, at 48 years old, I never worked for anyone else in my entire life besides my father. I ran nightclubs and sports bars my entire adult life, and always had a card shop. Had my first one when I was 15 years old. Been to every expo, almost every expo since 1991. Go to the Nationals. I'm a collector at heart. I live and breathe this, just like you, Joe, Tony. Obviously, I just listened to you tonight, but you had that passion that I have, like that. I just can't wait to reach and grab a stack and show it. And, like Jeremy, obviously you're one of the most passionate collectors there is in the hobby, and you've built this knowledge over time. That is exceptional. Obviously, like I said, sometimes there's different views on different things, but at the end of the day, anybody that would say that you aren't one of the most passionate collectors in this hobby simply doesn't know what they're talking about. So
I agree. I'm pretty passionate. I appreciate that. But you know me. I mean, we've hung out at the expo for 10 years now. For 5 years knowing each other, but probably 5 years before that is just you coming by and buying the odd card from me, or me buying the odd card from you. Absolutely. Guys, Brad has mentioned Mississauga a few times. If you don't know where that is, that's where the expo is. It's actually, Mississauga is where the Toronto airport is. It's a suburb, if you will, of Toronto. So just to clarify that for anybody who didn't know. And part of, I've mentioned over the past several months that, when some people have accused me of being hard on PSA because of my investment in tag. And I say, well, I've got, more invested in PSA, in cards and PSA slabs than I do in the company tag grading. And I just put another lump of that value into it with this Joe Jackson card that I recently did you catch wind of that, Brad? Are you? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I was going to give you a message later on about it, because I know that we have talked about it, but that's a big purchase, and people talk and they see all these cards trading for money. Like, that's a massive purchase, and it doesn't happen every day. It's a big move, and it's a bold move, and hats off to you for making that decision to go after it.
Thank you. I just want to address Christopher Gomes in the chat. Says, can't wait till our hobby is over this stupid slab era. Chris Gomes, that ain't happening ever. That is I believe that is a permanent evolution of the hobby. So The nice thing for you, Christopher, is you don't have to use any grading company or buy slab cards. There is a hobby out there for everybody. This hobby is very versatile, and there is a way in for anybody who wants to be in it. You do not have to follow the herd. You do not have to be a part of the trends. If you don't have to do the hobby your way, that's all good. That is all good, right, guys? Tony, Joe, you're nodding along. You know, we see comments like that all the time. And my thought is just like, do it your way. Tony, what do you think when you see that kind of and also, if you have anything you'd like to respond to or comment on what Brad has been talking about, what's, you know, the Canadian move, if that's interesting to you. But what are you thinking right now, Tony?
So 2 things. One is, I don't tell people who collect raw that, you know, hey, you're crazy for collecting raw. I just let them do their thing. But yet the people who collect slabs, that becomes a bad thing. But look, he can collect how he wants. But I can tell you right now, there is no way on earth I'm buying a $150,000 Joe Jackson that's raw without somebody that knows what they're talking about putting a stamp of approval on it. So that gives me, when I buy things online or eBay or auction house, whatever, somebody with some authority has already looked at it. Do they mess up sometimes? Absolutely. But I say they're right and way, way more than they're wrong. And it gives me a borderline to know if I'm buying something like yours, I know at a 1.5 what the ramifications is, probably a crease. There's something there. But if I'd have bought yours unsight, unseen, without a slab on there, I might have thought, man, this is an 8. This is an excellent mint, like we used to get in the Beckett guides back in the day. So this at least tells us, hey, this might have this issue going on. So that's why it's important with today. Everybody's buying online stuff without seeing it in person.
That's it. That's it. The sight unseen, the advent of eBay in the late 90s is what brought on, I think, was what gave grading its foothold in the hobby. Was people are buying these sight unseen. And, you know, again, back to my Joe Jackson, both SGC and PSA have given their opinion on the authenticity. That to me is better than just PSA or just SGC. They have both said that this card is worthy of being in our slab. I mean, I got both opinions. That's like on a piece of game used memorabilia where the owners go get opinions from several different authenticators, not just one. They get it on more than one. That's pretty cool. And I don't know if, like, how often you have that opportunity in sports cards to get 2 great opinions on the authenticity. To me, the grade, it doesn't even matter so much. Someone said it here. Sundin said, he says, I want subgrades only, no final grades. I am the final boss if I appeal. Like, I don't completely agree with that for me, but I agree with I'm the final boss on if a card looks nice enough and presents well enough to get into my collection at that price and relative to the technical grade. The word technical and grade is so important because there are things we don't see, especially when we're buying based off of 2-dimensional images on a screen, right? That's which exactly we do so often. That's why the grade is important. And I'll say that's why the grade is important, because it's instructive. It's a part of what goes into our purchasing process. Joe, where are you at? What's going through your mind?
Yeah.
I'm just here on the beach.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, I just throw in, I mean, a big value proposition with PSA is, you know, the sort of insurance / guarantee, and that sometimes can be lost on some folks. But I know high-end collectors, especially, not necessarily me, because I don't have those kind of high-end cards, but people I know who have those do really value that part of the PSA slab. And Brad, I wanted to ask you real quick. Well, actually, first I wanted to compliment you and commend you for a response that you made on when Jeremy was going down PSA's road on IG. And just as someone who really values customer service and kind of stepping into accountability, I just really appreciated how you responded to that. And that might actually be why you're on the show, because I pointed out to Jeremy, I said, did you see Brad's comment? I thought it was exceptional. And then, you know, here we are. The other question I had was, I'm curious, like without going into the org chart, do you have connection with sort of the infrastructure of PSA, like the beehive, if you will? I mean, are you in, the C-suite meetings with Nat, or how connected is PSA Canada to the overall? And do you think the expansion of PSA has anything to do with some of the challenges and the backlog and or inconsistencies in grading? That's a curiosity that we've speculated about a little bit on this show.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely I'm connected. I want to make sure this comes across the right way. Yes, I'm connected with everyone in the company, from our top leadership, all the way down to our shippers, to our receivers, to our customer service team. If you can imagine right now, currently now, if you're in Canada, you have to submit to us at PSA Canada with the tariff situation that we have. The reason why we implemented that was simply to protect our customers. Once we did that, I'm currently the sole employee in Canada. We have in the Canadian market now, if you look the amount of submitters we have, it's five figures and above. So it makes it very difficult sometimes for me to respond to everybody as fast as I can, to answer the phone, to answer text messages, answer emails. When you have 10,000 plus customers, this is it. It's a one-stop shop. But this is why I'm so excited. We're building our team. We're going to have 20 more people. We're hiring a full-time marketing manager in Canada. It's great. But I also have a team behind me in the US that I lean on every day. If it was going all the way to NAD, if it's going to our head graders, their response time is 30 seconds and they're back to me with any questions I have. Ryan Hogue, our president at PSA, passionate collector, just a genuine nice, one of the nicest guys you could meet. Yeah. Ryan Miller, who's head of international. Jeremy, you did an interview with him at the Toronto Expo. I don't know if you remember Ryan. Ryan was at Ford for a long time, and he came into collectors around the same time, just a little bit prior than when I joined collectors. And I'm not going to say this too loosely, but one of the smartest individuals I've ever met in my entire life. And he's helping us grow this brand globally. And when there is a mistake and when we do something wrong, the whole team gets on that and we're trying to fix it. Ryan Hogue just was on the podcast that we do, the PSA pod. And it was nice to see when he said, when we talked about the new verbiage used in the grading standards. And he's like, if we could have go back, could we have rolled that out a lot differently? Absolutely. Right. Like we are a big company. We got close to 2,500 employees, offices in Japan, China, now in Europe, US, we have Canada. Like it's a big operation and there's a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. And I just if we do make a mistake as a company, if we do make a mistake on a grade, we stand behind it and we fix it. And anyone that says that we don't, that's just simply not true. And I think that's when Jeremy, when you did that and I put it out there, I'm like, if someone does have a problem and there's a slab that's labeled wrong or reach out to me, regardless of where you're at. We'll do our best to get it fixed in a timely manner. Sometimes things do take a little bit longer, obviously with the demand that we do have at this time. When you have more cards coming in than you're putting out, that can create some issues. But we're forever expanding and investing in technology and all these little things that help out. It's exciting to be part of. And it's not just me sitting here saying it. I truly believe in it. I absolutely, because I get to see it and I see the passion I see when there's a mistake made and you can see the messages go through all the channels and it's like, guys, how did we let this happen? How did this happen? Let's make sure we never let this happen again. And then we try to fix it. But there's always going to be mistakes that are made, and it's how you correct the mistakes afterwards. That's what I truly love. So.
Yeah, same here. And, I just want to say that in being critical of PSA, I've been critical of other companies too, but in being critical, I'm also someone who realizes that I don't know everything about what's going on. A lot of people, say, they'll make a comment like, well, PSA should just make a, like in the chat right now, this is going on and on in the chat right now, by the way, make a horizontal slab. Well, yeah, maybe, but maybe not. All of a sudden, that could be it could be a disaster. They're not going to stack well with your other slabs. They don't have graded card boxes for them. There's no supplies for, like, do you really want that? Maybe, and someone did try. Like, anyway, my point is, people will often say they should do this. Well, not should is such a strong and often bound by ignorance, where you don't know what they can do. Logistics come into play as well. And knowing that I don't know everything that goes on at PSA or any other company, it's only fair, if I'm going to be critical, that I also entertain the actual information. And by having Brad on tonight, we get to do that. We get to hear from somebody who's on the inside and is sharing. And listen, I got to tell you guys, I've known Brad for a long time. And when I say it, like he's there's no BS when it comes to Brad Hartland. There's no BS. And I know that because I've known him in person. Brad, I remember, I think it was the Chicago National, probably pre-pandemic. The show, the National had ended. It was Sunday. I think we were both just maybe waiting to go to the airport. We go have dinner together in that, in Rosemont, where all the restaurants are. And we sat there, and like, that's something that the point of me saying this is because I know this guy. I know, I don't live with him. I don't know him like I know, even some of my other friends, but I feel like I know you, Brad, and I know that having you on, you're going to give us the straight goods. And I know that some people want to hear that stuff. So I think it's great that you come on, and I'm really happy that you're here, and that I could give us both the opportunity to have you here tonight. So
no, and I appreciate that. And again, I can't answer every question, but I'll do my best. And if I can't answer it, I'll try to find the answer. And I'll answer and I'll answer the hard questions, to the best of my ability.
I have another question for you. And this one, it came up, someone put in the chat earlier, they said, as if a grading company has never slabbed a counterfeit card. We know it happens. We know that grading companies slab cards that are trimmed without detecting the trim. We know that this happens. The question I have for you, Brad, about that is there a acceptable error rate that is like, and I mean, obviously the error rate should be 0, but we know there is an error rate there. How does PSA, how do you guys deal with that? Because it's got to be one of the things that keeps you guys up at night the most, is when that happens. You're like, ugh, how do you guys deal with these situations?
Honestly, I think the easiest thing is that when it does happen, we fix it. If you have a problem and you're not going to fix it, that's going to keep you up at night. But when a mistake is made, we stand behind it. And I think it was Joe talked a little bit about the grade guarantee, and I'm sure Tony and Jeremy, you just bought a card for a huge amount of money. It's nice to have that insurance and to know behind that this is authentic. I would not know, as much as I'd like to think I would. There's cards out there that I'm sure would get by me as a counterfeit that I might not know the difference, especially some of the old tobacco cards and the vintage stuff that I just don't know. Obviously, hockey's my number one sport. I can say with confidence that a Wayne Gretzky rookie card that is not a legit card, I'm quite confident that's never going to get by me. Now, a Michael Jordan 86 Flair, some of the ones I see come through, just a card that, we're all familiar with, but there's so many different versions and so many different guys. That's tough. I have a PSA 8 Jordan rookie in my collection, and I would not buy Tony, you talked about it, I would not buy a Michael Jordan rookie card raw. Nope. I just wouldn't. It scares me. The authenticity, the trim, the altered, I'm not doing it.
It can't be easy. Tony, do you have anything to jump in with here?
Well, first off, I want to say, one of the things that I hear about PSA from collectors is that there's no communication. So the fact that you're sitting on here tonight in your den or your home office or whatever is huge, because I own a custom cabinet shop, and I tell my employees all the time, I'm selling cabinets, but really what I'm selling is I'm selling trust. And my customers trust me to give the product I said I was going to give them. They trust me to be on time with that product. And if there's a problem with the product, they trust I'm going to take care of it. And so the fact that you're sitting here and now I see a face, I see your name, I hear you talk, I hear your passion, I trust you now. That's huge. Communication's huge. So I give you kudos for coming on here tonight and doing this. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Tony.
You know, Brad, you're such a great representation of whatever company you're associated with. You know, I always feel like, for myself, I want to do business with people that I like. That it's relate. You know, Tony, you said trust. I thought you were going to maybe talk about relationships. You're selling,
that's big
right?
time.
But trust is part of a healthy relationship.
Exactly.
They are tied together very closely. And you know, I just know that, Brad, you're just a likable guy. I just know that people are gonna, they're gonna be likely to do business with someone that they like, and they can put a face, like Tony said. And you know, PSA is a major entity in our hobby. They have such they play such an important role that it's nice to be able to put more faces and names to it. Nat is out there as well. He puts his face out there. Ryan puts his face out there as well. I mean, I don't know where you fall exactly in the hierarchy, Brad, but you know, if you're running the Canadian operations, those are three of the, top people in the organization that are out there. And I mean, Nat was my guest here on episode number 100 of Sports Cards Live. That was right after him and his investment team purchased Collectors. I don't know how long ago that was now, but it's probably 3.5 to 4 years ago. So, and as we know, Nat is a collector. You are a collector, Brad. That's the other thing. I mean, Brad, you've bought cards from me over the years, several times. Did you buy my Shaquille O'Neal a cut above? I can't find the card. Did you buy my 100% a cut above?
Yes, I bought that at the Edmonton show from you.
The one with the jaggedy top?
Yeah. I think,
okay.
Or it's a jaggedy one. I forget the exact. I'm sure that's what it is, cut above or above the rim, or
It's a cut above, because I've been searching for this card, thinking I lost or someone stole it from me. I'm like, I must have sold, but I don't. Okay,
I bought
okay.
I bought it at the Edmonton show. The show was closing, and I was going through your box of stuff that you didn't know if you were going to sell, and I was like, I just really want a really cool Shaq card, and yeah, it was me.
Okay, good.
And I still have it. I still have it as well, but
yeah. No, and so you also have a card, or you have or had a card shop as well, right?
Yeah. So my wife Sherry, so she owns and operates with a team of 8 AMG Collectibles. It's the largest shop in Atlantic Canada and one of the largest shops in Canada. So we have our submission center located inside that. Used to be a Scotia Bank. So we have a massive vault where all the cards come into. FedEx comes there daily to pick up boxes and take out shipments. And yeah, it's a really cool operation. But to put it in perspective, there's lots of authorized dealers, across the world, and in the US, there's some very large dealers in the US. But PSA Canada was the largest dealer prior to joining, the largest or second largest, just to be clear, dealer in the world. So the amount of cards that are coming through and have come through our hands, it's been awesome to see. And doing the on-site grading event in Toronto, being in the grading room with our leadership team, our top dogs are at the show in Toronto. They can't wait to come back again in November. And watching that process and watching them in action on cards, I don't know if we'll ever pull the curtain back. Again, that's not my decision to make, but I think everybody, if they would see the process that goes into when a big card comes through the door, what the process looks like, it would answer a lot of questions. And there's Jeremy, me and you talked about this on the phone last week. There's nobody in the world, and there's some great guys out there, and there's card doctors, there's cards that can do. The top dogs, I won't say them by name, but when you have the 3 or 4 of them guys and they're all looking at a card, there's nobody, when you put those 4 minds together and the experience that they have over the course of the life, the amount of cards that they looked at. Jeremy, we've looked at tons of cards. Tony, I'm sure you did. Joe, nobody looked at more cards than these guys. They've been at PSA for decades. And they've seen this, and they've seen people trying to beat the system, and they've seen this, and they put the passion in. If they're not sure, they ask each other, they go over it before they make a decision. And it's awesome. And having that relationship with our head grader at PSA that I'm very fortunate to have, I enjoy it, and it's educational, and I love asking questions, and I like seeing their passion and, the passion to get it right. And it's so important to get it right. And I can never sit here and say we don't make mistakes as a company. Like I said earlier, we do, but when we do, we'll fix them. And that's just me being sincere. And I know there's people in the chat that are going to listen tomorrow or the next day, and they'll say, "Oh, well, I hate this. That's just the world we live in today." But I'm proud to be part of this company. And if anyone would ever like to have questions after the show, like Joe, you mentioned, my phone number is listed on PSAcard.com. It's PSA Canada Brad. Give me a call, send me a message, give me an email, and I'll answer your question. But being a collector, if we just jump back to that, I'll get off the PSA thing. Like, Jeremy, this is how we really know each other. First is being a passionate collector. And I collect everything, cards of all years. I have every rookie card from 48 up to 89 in all 4 sports in various PSA ones. I have some raw, I have some various grades all over the map. I collect modern and non-sport. I'm into the non-sport lately, which I'm having an absolute blast with. Jeremy, we were at one table at the National last year or the year before, and this guy just had stuff that you just never seen before. Bruce Springsteen's rookie card and PSA 9, and you bought a few, I bought a stack. I think actually Nat walked behind us and stopped, and he bought a few cards from this guy. It was a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, I bought a John Travolta from him at that show. Yeah. I just want to bring one comment on. 2 comments. First, Dan's Vintage Baseball says this is the first Sports Cards Live in months where none of my comments made the screen. Well, Dan, I just have to say, you might have noticed that very few comments have made the screen. There just hasn't been the opportunity, and that's something that I would like there to be the opportunity, because the chat is the other guest on this show. Brad, Midlife Sports Card says, we want to see the process. Can you ask Nat to allow you to show us, or somebody? Has that been discussed? Have you discussed that with Nat and Ryan and anyone else there?
No, but I've discussed it in numerous chats about pulling back the curtain. I think that's all part of the process. There's lots of reasons why certain things aren't done, and but I do think over time you will see more and more of that. Yeah, I do. I believe you will see more and more of that over time.
Because that, to me, that would help the trust aspect. If we could just see a little bit, you ain't gonna show us everything, but just like an overview of how the sausage is made, and it would help us trust. Like, some of my customers want to see how my cabinets are made, and they're spending good money on my cabinets. They want to walk through my shop and see how my employees are doing it, see if my shop is clean, see how my operation's running. That helps me sell cabinets. So that's just my 2 cents. So it sounds like to me, if it was your choice, you'd let it happen. So I'm not trying to overstep my bounds, but Jeremy's the host here. Sorry.
No, it's so true. It is so true. The first time I met the head grader at PSA, I didn't know I was going to meet the head grader. They flew me down as an authorized dealer to Santa Ana, and myself and Sherry, my wife, and they said, all right, well, you're going to have 30 minutes with a grader. You can ask as many questions as you want. You can imagine how I just felt at that moment. Like, oh boy, all right, I got a notepad. I'm writing this 100 questions, as much as I can possibly write, because I'm ready to do this. We roll in, and this gentleman walks in. I didn't know it was our head grader. And he said, you got some questions for me? What would you like to know? And instantly I'm just like, okay, where's my list? What can I ask? What can I ask? Because we all want to ask these questions. Like, how do you tell how can a modern card be a PSA 10 if it is a print line? And how does this happen? And how can you detect this? And how can you do it? And he just opened up and told me everything. So it was so nice to see. So what I've tried to do now at the Toronto National, and there's a little bit of a time restraint, but I've taken our authorized dealers or a collector back into the grading room, where I walked in with them just to have a brief conversation. And the guys, the top dogs at our company in the grading room are always so gracious. They answer their questions, and just that Tony, kind of like you said, a 5-minute interaction
Yeah.
just means so much. And then I walked around the Toronto Expo with our 2 head graders. We just went around together and we stopped at different tables of guys that I knew were passionate, guys that were on the set registry, guys that were PSA, some guys that I kind of knew might not even be PSA fans per se, if I use that proper terminology. And they ask questions and they interact, and the guys afterwards like, thanks so much for doing that, right? It's so the more little things, I think over time, we will pull back the curtain and as much as we can. So.
Right. Well, thanks for answering that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's got to be a bit of secret sauce, or you don't want competitors coming through and all that sort of thing, seeing everything. But maybe there isn't. I mean, if it's as simple as a person inspecting a card, I was in the PSA grading room in 2009 and at Santa Ana, and it wasn't much of a room at the time, Brad. It was a small room with a few desks, but this is also 2009. I always kind of wonder how many total cards have been graded by PS. I'm sure GemRate has the information, but like, what does that curve look like, and how many cards were being graded, back in 2009 or even in 1999 every day? How many, how much time is spent on a card? Not a 1914 Cracker Jack Joe Jackson, but how much time is spent on a modern, just a Topps base, a paper card that should be, I would expect, a lot easier to grade. And then there's how much technology is involved in the whole process as well. I mean, you can speak to those if you'd like. I don't want to, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you these questions. I didn't prep you for any of this, but if you want to respond, please.
Yeah, for sure. I will say one thing. Colin Murray made that it's easier to submit direct to PSA. When you do submit with us, I want to make sure we're clear. You are submitting direct to PSA. And what we're doing when we open the submission center, we'll have our own Canadian online submission center that mirrors psacard.com. It will be bilingual, so both French and English for both of our languages. This is our product and tech team have been working on this for the last 6 months. So everybody that's in Canada that wants to submit cards to PSA automatically will submit to our new receiving center in Mississauga. So it's not going to give an option to submit direct and have the card shipped back to you across the border. They're going to have to go to the office in Mississauga, where we will then forward them on. That's just one thing. I just wanted to make sure we were clear with that. And that's going to be such a huge advantage for cross-border shipping. It's just going to eliminate the stress. If you've been doing it for a long time and everything's smooth, but in the world we live in today with this, I'll use the term turmoil. I don't even like to mention the word tariff because I feel like it keeps me up at night for the last 6 months. It's things are just changing. So,
okay, good. Any response to my questions about time spent on a card, and is that something you can shed any light? Like, is that a question you were asking the head grader when you had that time with them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%. I went through. I mean, there's lots of things that we have put out there. How much time is spent on a card? I mean, I've seen them spend 20 minutes on a card with 4 guys all looking at it to make a decision. There's lots of things that go in it, but sometimes people it's so easy to forget that. I don't know what the number would be, but there's so many people that submit cards to us that are trying to beat the system. They're trying to do something fraudulent. They're trying to do something mischievous. They're trying to do something nefarious. And people forget about that. So sometimes there's things that aren't revealed, because when you reveal too much, that gives these nefarious people out there an advantage. And then things can slip through the cracks. So you want to hold some of these details back as much as you can, because people are trying to beat the system. Right. And it's constantly, like, I think there's a stat out there. I think actually Chris McGill said it one time, how many Jordans, or maybe it was Ryan Hogue, how many Jordans that are submitted, 86 flares to PSA that are fake. It's like 95% of the Jordans that are submitted are counterfeit. Like, it's just a crazy stat. It might be 90, it could be 85, but it's off the charts. Now it's with Pokemon cards, and now it's with fake slabs and counterfeit slabs, and we're constantly evolving all that stuff. But again, not trying to avoid that. The question on how long does it take? I mean, I think there's various times, and it depends on the cards itself.
Yeah, that certainly does make sense to me. There's lots of questions coming in, and I appreciate all the questions. Well, I think Chris Gomes, he wants to get a job at PSA so he can finally implement the horizontal slab over there. He's trying to beat the system by getting a job and getting the horizontal slab going over there. So good luck with you with that, Chris. Yeah, lots. The one question I've seen a couple of people ask is, why not grade in Canada?
Yeah, so it's simply, that's from a business standpoint. If the volume can warrant us to have a full grading operation, then we will. We're a small market in comparison. Obviously, the U.S. is the Goliath. Japan would be next. You have the UK, and Germany's a big market. In France, it's the European market is growing. There's a lot there, especially on the TCG side. But so you have Japan, US, we're the 5th largest market.
But it comes down to when it makes sense as a business to open up, to have the staff and pay the staff. Okay, so
absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and I'm quite confident, Jeremy, that we will get there.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, you said that, and you said that earlier. Yeah, good. So let's switch off of the PSA topic and bring it back to collector and card talk here. And I want to ask Joe and Brad, if you look on Tony's screen, you look to over his right shoulder, which is to the left. I see the 48 leaf Jackie. I see the Cracker Jack. I see the bat off shoulder T206 Cobb, and I see the 52 tops Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
You look at these cards, and it's so sad. People go, well, you just bought the Cracker Jack, Jeremy. Of course, you're like, which one there? If you, and maybe just exclude the Cracker Jack, because I think it's in a league of its own, maybe price wise. Which is your favorite card over his shoulder there, Joe? Which one do you say Cracker Jack if you want, whatever. Which is your favorite there over Tony's shoulder, Joe?
That's a toughie. I'd probably discard the Cobb just because there's multiple T206s of him, and I think I prefer the portraits myself. The Mantle I've never owned. I've owned the Jackie, and I own the Jackie. I'm actually crossing it over at SGC right now. A one and an old holder to an SGC holder for reason I am doing that. The green prescription.
Let's go to you, Brad. Joe, you're in and out right now, so let's go over to you, Brad. And what do you like? What do you like over his shoulder?
52 tops.
Yeah, it's that easy for you?
Yeah. That easy for me. That's just,
have you owned one before?
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So yeah, I have every rookie card from 48 to 89 complete now, from all 4 sports. And again, like various, my 54 tops, Hank Aaron, looks like it could be a PSA 8 or 9, except for there's a hole punch in the top right-hand corner. I'm okay. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's got a hole punch. Some people look at it, they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you kind of missed the little circle up in the left-hand corner, right? But yeah, various degrees. And, and I again, I'm an eye appeal guy like you are, Jeremy, and the technical grade always helps me when I look at a card, but yeah.
Brad, you said you have every rookie card. The 52 tops isn't a rookie card.
Correct.
So you have the Bowman. So you have the Bowman Mantle, but you also have the 52 tops because of its iconic,
100%
legendary. Yeah.
In my 51 Bowman Mantle might be the worst PSA one in existence.
What's your 52 tops graded as?
That one I'll keep to myself.
Okay. He's got a 9, guys. No, I'm kidding. Joe, I think you're clear now. Well, back to you.
I'll answer quickly. I think I'd go Jackie. But in the spirit of what we were talking about earlier, it might depend on the specific card itself, right? Any one of those, I'd be very happy to have in the collection, and especially if it had, the eye appeal that we've been talking about.
What about you, Tony? I know those aren't cards on that shelf there, but what about you? Same question to you. The chat's jumped in a little bit as well, which is nice to see. But What do you prefer there?
So which one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 3 on the 52 tops and a 4.5 on the 48, or a lot of people are calling 49 now, Leaf.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson. The Relief book, by the way, if you guys haven't checked out the Relief book, have you read that, Brad? You're nodding along.
Yeah, I've read it too. I'm gonna have him on my channel. Yeah. I've already talked to Brad. He's a good dude.
Yeah, same here.
So for me, 52 Mantle was always my grail card growing up in the 80s. It was on front of all the Becketts and all the magazines, and everybody talked about it. So that's that. But the Jackie and what it stands for with that man and the I mean, now we know it's a 49, and so actually the Bowman is a rookie card as well. But that Leaf is always going to get the flowers for that. So that's a tough one. But I've got all 4 of those cards, and I'll tell you, the one that I grab when I look at my cards, when I get them out of the safe, because I don't put them up, that's why they're not behind me. When I put that up and I go and it's this one every single time. That's the one. And I know I'm supposed to say that right now because Jeremy's on here, but that's the card. And I didn't spend as much on that one as I did the Mantle. But it just appeals to me, man. I love Joe Jackson, so I love the story. The card's awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
Do you have anything on your watch list right now? What's number one? What's the most wanted? What's on the milk carton?
Well, there's a big one I'm after, and I'm not going to reveal that. I'm kind of keeping it close to my chest like Jeremy did. I did pick up one recently that was a huge one for me. I got the signed 55 tops Jackie on card auto. I'm really big. I love the on card auto stuff. I think it's really cool. And that gets back to the scarcity thing. So, like this is one of my most prized Cracker Jacks, and it's got Joe Wood's autograph on it. There's only like 4 or 5 Cracker Jacks with autographs. And so that's one of them. So I got that off eBay. Couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And so, yeah, the scarcity, you can get grade scarcity. You can get card scarcity just from the number, how many cards are out there. But then there's, also autographs create scarcity. So especially guys that died before the boom in autographs happened, So yeah, that kind of stuff turns me on.
So Dan's gonna get another one on here. He says Tony at Strongsville is gonna be one to watch. Is he saying that, Tony? Is he saying that because are you going to Strongsville?
Yeah, I'll be there.
But are you going? Like, is one of your goals there trying to find this card that you're not telling us what it is, or is the card that you're trying to buy currently at auction somewhere?
It's coming up on an auction.
Which website and which lot number would that be?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there. But it's if I get it, you'll know.
Yeah, for sure. Can't wait.
Because there's a couple of big cards I'm gonna have to part with to make room for it. But it's what you do, man.
What you do.
It's just part of it.
It is. No doubt about it. For sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, listen. Brad, how are you doing for time? Are you?
Red Bull kicked in. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good, whatever you. Yeah.
Well, because Chris Hoge, who is our closer, he comes on. We're he's actually been sitting there patiently for about 5 minutes already. But I don't want to lose either of you guys right now. Should we? Joe's frozen at the moment. Should we go 5-way here? Should we go 5-way for a bit? You guys want to stick around? You're welcome.
Man, I'm good. Bring it on.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Keep it up there, Hoge. 5-way. He's saying we're going 5-way. Welcome back. How are you?
Doing well.
How have you enjoyed the last couple hours since you were on the show earlier with Dr. Beckett?
It's been great, man. I don't know if pitchers are allowed to come into the game, come out, and then come back in, but we're going to make an exception here.
They can in softball.
There we go.
We're good. I got softballs up here over this shoulder, right? I'm like Price is Right woman.
See, I thought I was playing baseball this whole time. I've been playing softball.
So, Chris, I want to ask. I mean, you as working with Card Ladder, which was since acquired by Collectors, which is who Brad is with. Do you guys know each other? Have you met before? I don't know.
Brad and I have definitely chatted on a few occasions, and one of them was on Clubhouse, the Clubhouse app. Do you remember that, Brad?
I do, absolutely, 100%. Okay.
Right on. So good. I'm glad. And Chris, do you know Tony?
No.
Only know of. My first introduction to Tony was on Stacking Slabs.
Yeah.
And he actually made such an insightful observation that I brought it onto your show, Jeremy, a month or two ago when I sort of tried to summarize what he was saying about the philosophy of collecting vintage. And as you advance in years, you start to look back and you don't only look forward. And I just thought it was such an interesting concept that we discussed it on this show after I heard it on there. And now I follow him on YouTube and stuff. So
well, thanks,
I'm familiar.
Chris. Well, I'm a big user of your product too, man. It's huge for me. That's where I look up pop counts. I look up, when I'm studying to see what the comps are going to be. All those things, that's what I use as card ladder. I mean, it's huge. That's a huge tool for me.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Me as well. Would have been lost without it, especially this last month as I was, doing all my Joe Jackson research. So, Chris, I want to ask, so you've been listening along. Anything come to mind for you that you would like to weigh in on since you left us?
I just love seeing everybody kind of talk their favorite cards right now and which one you reach for first when you're dipping into the vault. And that's just the type of content that I just love to sit back and take in on a Saturday night. That's about my only comment. I
usually pull out my 48 leaf Warren Spawn. I just like to see how my hair is doing and how am I looking. So definitely check out the Spawn. Definitely a lot of fun doing that. What do you guys? We were talking earlier about the Skenes patch, and I know it's kind of like some people are probably who cares already, but I just want to get some other opinions on it. What you think, and is it something that? And to all three of you, because I think none of you were on the show when we last talked about this tonight. But are any of you guys? Do you feel that should just be eliminated from the narrative of how healthy the hobby is? The hobby seems healthy to me. Card shows are packed. I was at a local show today, could barely move around. Literally, it was so busy in there. And cards are selling for a lot of money to the point where I've heard people say it almost seems like there's something weird going on. They're questioning the viability of or the authenticity, let's say, of some of these sales. Is the Paul Skenes patch card just contributing to that, or is it at $1.11 million for kind of a really, I don't want to say prospect, but someone who's really early in their career? Maybe he is a prospect. Is it something that we should just eliminate from looking at the health of the hobby? Or is it indicative of the health of the hobby because Dick's Sporting Goods wants to attract people to its store with that card there? What do you think, Tony? Let's start with you.
Well, going back to what I said, if I go to what I said with Brett McGrath on Stacking Slabs, look, collect what you want, pay what you want, get modern, vintage, Pokemon, whatever makes you happy, right? So I want to phrase it all that way first. So that's the most important thing. Now, as far as a corporation coming in, well, I mean, there's a lot of people, whether you're a corporation or whether you're Charlie Sheen buying something or Gretzky on the T206 Wagner. I can't compete with Gretzky. I mean, he's a corporation all to himself. I'm just this dude in Tennessee trying to make a living and own a business, so I can afford some nicer stuff, but I can't afford what they can afford. So it all is relative, man. And the fact that they did want this card and it is going to bring people in, because I believe they're going to start a hobby space, and that's kind of what they're trying to invite people in to look at. I mean, back in the day when Planet Hollywood was so big and they were buying all the memorabilia and putting it on the walls, I mean, they were competing with people. That's just the way it's been, man. You can't really judge it by that. But the fact it went for $1 million, I mean, to me, that's pretty healthy. I mean, whether you believe in it or not, as older guys, we've all seen Steven Strasburg come and go. We've seen those guys. And so he could blow his UCL out tomorrow and never regain it. I mean, we don't know, man. So that's a prospecting deal. That's looking forward. And who knows, it may pay off. It may not. But The vintage stuff, we know that's on paper. A lot of these guys are dead. We don't, unless something really comes out of the woodwork, they're what they are. So that's my 2 cents on it. I think it's a positive. I mean, I don't see it's negative. Anytime there's money flowing.
Yeah. There's certainly money flowing on that one. Brad, where do you weigh in on that?
I agree. The more outside money that comes into the hobby, the better off we all are in the hobby. I truly believe that. And as far as the health of the hobby, someone that works every day seeing cards come in, and every day I'm in a sports card shop, that I will say this with confidence, from everything that I see, the hobby has never been better. It's thriving. The customers, the true passionate collectors that are coming through the doors, I was in there for 8 hours today, and hundreds of people coming through the doors buying discount dollar cards, 70s vintage, 60s vintage, modern packs, Pokemon, supplies, TCG. It's awesome. Like, every show is busy that I go to now. It's a healthy hobby, and it's great to see.
Over to you, Chris, and then we'll go to Joe.
Yeah, I thought the market is doing fine without this sale. And I look at, I'm going to talk a little ultra-modern here. I look at what Skenes' Bowman First Super sold for. It sold twice last year, I think, for around 100,000, 115,000, in that range. And that seemed like that was a reasonable ceiling for the best card for Skenes. And even that certainly could be argued as high. So when the 7-figure sale pours in, just seems way out of whack with what the collector demand or the market demand is for his cards if you take a giant corporation out of the bidder pool. Although one does wonder who was the second highest bidder, because somebody else bid over $1 million for that thing too. Darren Ravel had an interesting article that he put out today that he published to LinkedIn, but I happened to see it on Twitter. And the headline that got me to click it was, he said, this is a better buy for Dick's than it would be for a collector, or something along those lines. And that's a very provocative headline, because when I saw that Dick's had spent over $1 million on a card, it just kind of aggravated me, because I'm not looking forward to having to compete against corporations when I'm trying to add cards to my collection. It's already competitive enough. It's already difficult enough. And it already drains my funds enough trying to participate in the market as is. So I was provoked by that topic from Darren, because I didn't like it. What do you mean? Obviously this is bad for collectors. This is going to be really difficult. We have to compete against corporations. But then I clicked in and I read the article, and he was more so making the point that this is really a strategic play for Dick's, and it was a unique opportunity to grab a card that's getting a ton of headlines, that's being heavily promoted by Fanatics, by Topps, by all of its social media branches, by its PR wing, and it's going to benefit Dick's because they already, according to this piece by Ravel, they already sell a lot of trading cards. They already have a lot of trading card products in various Dick's stores that they sell. And so this is a new banner that they're, metaphorically posting, that's calling people into the store to say, look, we really like trading cards. We have cards. This is part of our experience. Come into our store, buy some cards, do the House of Sports, experiential stuff, do the virtual golfing, do the rock climb, do the batting cages, buy some polos, and get out of here. And so I understood it from that perspective. And on that perspective, it feels kind of more like a one-off. Like, Dick's isn't going to come in and be competing against me for a random Nikola Jokic 4th year 1-of-1 from Revolution anytime soon. So as long as that's the case, great. But yeah, I couldn't get excited about it, honestly, but it is what it is.
And lots of attention. It should bring lots of attention. It's so new. They probably don't even have the card yet at this point. So, it's only 2 days ago. One business day has gone by. So they, once they have the card, there will be more attention on it. So I think hopefully it's a net positive for the hobby. Joe, anything to add in on that? I have a around the table question to get to. No? Okay. you were here for the beginning too for that. So let's change it up, guys. I want to hear if you're willing to share, and I am on this one. Top 2 cards on your want list right now. And Tony, I know you're gonna, and you can exclude it, that you're willing to share. Top 2 cards on your want list that you're willing to share. Brad, I see you racking your brain. Tony, you don't seem to be as one in as much contemplation. What are the top 2 cards on that you're willing to share?
That's a tough one. There's the 1947 Bond Bred Jackie Robinson. There's the 13 card set, and there's the portrait card. We know that one was issued in 47. The other ones could have been issued as late as 1950. I've got a Jackie run, and I need that card. So that's one. What would be the other one? I want to get, so here's 2, but they kind of fall together. I'm trying to get what I consider the big 5 of the Cracker Jack guys. Okay, so I've got Joe Jackson, I've got Ty Cobb, and I've got Honus Wagner. I want the Christy Mathewson, and I want the Walter Johnson, and I will get those in 15s, and I have no shame about it. I don't want to pay the 14 tax because, no, nothing towards what you did, because what you did was amazing. I'm just not willing to put that kind of investment when I can buy a 15, and it's still kind of scarce. I mean, when you look at the numbers, those are all around 200. So, I just want the cards. Now the Matheson, of course, is different in 14. It's got the sideways. I'd love to have that one, but that's a 6-digit card. And,
well, you know what, Tony? I mean, I actually prefer the 15 Mathewson to the 14. I mean, just so people can see, I have pictures of them right here. That's the 15, a beautiful portrait, and that's the 14. It's not as you can't really see his face. It's a horizontal, which isn't consistent with some other cards. So I would go for the 15 myself from an aesthetic perspective of the card. I love that as well. So
and the pop count's really different. I mean, on the 14, the pop count's 64, and on the 15, it's 205.
And you're talking universal pop or just PSA?
That's universal pop. I looked it up. So, and also not only that, but on the 14, I showed you how much thinner they are than the 15. So if you look, I did Joe Jackson, just an example, and you probably did this math too. But Joe Jackson, the universal pop is 76 in the 14. It's 206 in the 15.
Oh, I got 201 on the 15.
Well, according to Card Ladder, it's 206.
Okay.
Now, if you go a little deeper, and this is where it gets really interesting, because we know the 15s came in boxes, but you could do a mail off. So you got those high grades in the 15s you don't have in the 14s. So in the 14s, only 17% of Joe Jacksons are a 5 or above. On 17%. On the 15s, 40% are 5 and above. So there's the scarcity of grade in the 14s as well. So, having a 1.5 in a 1914, there's no shame in that, man. That's amazing. So that's a high grade actually in a 14. So yeah, I like to do those numbers. That's what I look at. Same as probably what you did.
Yeah. I think I missed CGC in my total, because some I did use Card Ladder for some, but some I went right to PSA and right to SGC. But thank you for that. I'll have to update my research, but it is kind of a fun page to have now. It's a part of the story for me. That piece of paper right there. Brad, what about you? Your top 2 cards on your want list right now?
I need a 66 Topps Gordie Howe that will be PSA 8 or better for my set.
Okay.
That will move my set up to everything besides my Orza 7.5. But I got lots of 9s. I got 3 or 4 10s, but my Howe's a 7. But it's just an awesome eye appeal 7. I've sent it in for review, seeing what could happen, and it's stuck at 7. So that game's over. So yeah, I'd like to have that. And next is a Sidney Crosby Young Gun high gloss rookie card.
Ooh, that's a beast. There's a collector I think he's Edition Sports Cards on Instagram, who recently went through a big consolidation, traded away like almost all of his collection for the Connor McDavid Young Gun High Gloss. And on Instagram today, he put up a post explaining why he is willing to put everything into one card. And he made the argument, and I made a comment on it. And I said, great post, great card, and something like, you've convinced me. What you presented makes me think that, not that I would do that move, but that is the card for Connor McDavid, is that high gloss. So that you want the Crosby, which was called a glossy back in 2005, not a high gloss, is awesome. The Ovechkin just sold on Fanatics Collect on Thursday as well. I forget what it went for, but like well over $50,000, I believe. So a really great card. Chris, let's thank you, Brad. Thank you, Tony. Let's go to Chris for the two you're willing to share.
Yeah, let's reshuffle the deck a little bit here. We're gonna jump into a completely different era, but I have two. Right, we get two. First one is slightly more attainable. It's the 2015 Select Black Nikola Jokic. The card has been seen. It was seen at the National last year, and I was in the building and I just missed it. So I'm also putting out a call now and always to alert everybody that I'm trying to find it. And I've got a bounty out on it. And I really hope I hope it's in the building in Chicago this year. And then the other one is a little more out of reach and less likely. It's never been seen before. And there's going to be some stiff competition if it ever does show up. But it's the 1997 Flair Showcase Row 3 Masterpiece, Michael Jordan.
One of one.
Now, he has 4 in Flair Showcase because he's involved in 4 tiers of that product, or however you want to call them, 4 different levels. Row 0, Row 1, Row 2, and Row 3. And Nat Turner has the Row 0, the Row 1, and the Row 2. But nobody's seen that Row 3. So is it in a pack? Did it get destroyed 20 years ago when somebody was cleaning inventory off of a shelf and just – who knows? Nobody's seen it. But, if you find that one, you should hit me up too.
So I just want to point out that both of Chris's want list cards are one of ones. Like those are needles in a haystack. Are you also chasing any more readily available cards? Is like, maybe, they don't have to be mass produced, but is there anything that's on your want list that's like not serially numbered or numbered to 100 or 50 or anything else like that is something that, isn't just such a needle in a haystack?
Yeah, the 1941 play ball Ted Williams was going to be my third one. No, I'm joking.
I'm like, that's on my list.
Yeah, that's probably on everybody's list on here but mine. But no, Jeremy, honestly, no. Those are. I'm just looking for the needles in the haystack right now.
Yeah. How about you, Joe? Joe might be frozen again. So, are you there? Okay.
I think I am. Sorry about this. I don't know what's going on. I need to upgrade my 48 leaf Jackie. It's and I'd like got a better condition.
I'm gonna go for now while Joe's in and out. Tough night in Santa Cruz for the internet, I guess, but no big deal. My two that I'm gonna share with you guys is I've shared them before. This is no surprise. The 1941 play ball Joe DiMaggio is probably number 1 on my want list right now. And number 2 is the 1933 Gaudy Lou Gehrig card number 92. Those are and I also really want the 1950 Bowman Jackie. One of our friends on Instagram showed that card today. It in Cardboard Veritas, or
I think it was Matthew 1956 Topps.
Matthew 19, yeah. One from that crew showed it, and I wrote back to him. I said, I got to get me one of those, and because that's a card that will go with with my Joe Jackson and some other. No, I'm not gonna have the Joe Jackson for a couple months in hand, so I've got some time. But yeah, that's definitely those would be the I cheated and went with 3, but those would be the 3 cards that I really want. Here's a related question for all you guys. If we were all starting from scratch, building our collection from the beginning, what is the first card that you would purchase starting back into the hobby? This is a tough question because, especially for guys like Brad who collects all sports, all eras, it's tough for me because I do pretty much the same thing. Chris, it should be easier for you, maybe for you too, Tony. So let's start with the guys who I think it might be easier for to answer the question. Let's start with you, Tony, on this one. Guys, don't worry in the chat. Don't worry in the chat. Joe's back. He's back on the screen with us.
Do we have a budget, or is it a card we already own and we have to pick one we already own?
In your no, you have no cards now. You have no cards in your collection, guys. A card that you could actually go out and buy. And if you are a multi-millionaire, you can say whatever you want, but something that you would actually be able to go and purchase.
Well, I've already told you what my favorite one is. When I pick it up, it's the Joe. So that's kind of boring. So if I could get it, it'd be the M101 Babe Ruth rookie card. That one would be a huge one to have. That'd be amazing. I mean, he's the GOAT of all GOATs. We can name Gretzky, we can name Jordan, but Babe Ruth, everybody in America or in Canada, everybody around the world, that name, everybody knows it, and they'll know it 100 years from now, and that's his first card. So that would be the one.
I have to ask you though, and I have a feeling that at least one other person on the screen is thinking this. Is Michael Jordan not the GOAT of all GOATs because of his worldwide, people know him because of the shoes, because of the Nike shoes? Like, is he not more well-known worldwide than Babe Ruth? Legit question, not loaded. I don't know the answer, but
in World War II, when the Japanese guys were charging the lines, they were yelling cuss words about Babe Ruth at the American troops. And that was in World War II.
Not many of those guys left on the planet, though.
No, I'm just saying, even back then, that dude was global. I mean,
okay.
I agree with you now. In today, you may be right globally. I mean, Shohei Ohtani. I mean, that guy right now. You want to look at worldwide appeal.
And it's interesting because he's in his career, right? Babe Ruth, long gone. Michael Jordan, out of the sport, no longer playing, obviously. Shohei still is. He could get there. Tom Brady, I don't think enters the discussion. Wayne Gretzky, unfortunately for me, I don't think he enters the discussion. I think it's Michael Jordan or Babe Ruth, or then you get like Pelé. You get like those guys, the Muhammad Alis that are in the other sports. But if we're just talking the 4 major North American sports, by the way, if you don't know hockey being the 4th, guys, I think it's Michael Jordan right now, and it was probably Babe Ruth up until the 90s sort of thing. You agree, Tony? You can disagree.
I'm still saying Babe Ruth's the GOAT of the GOATs. And I think if you ask Michael Jordan, he'd tell you the same thing. I don't know. I just think, in China, they're not, well, they are now, they're buying baseball cards, but I'm looking at places all around the world. I don't know. Babe Ruth is the name of name. I mean, when you hit something really far, it's a Ruthian blast. If you're really good at your job, you're the Babe Ruth of cabinet shops. You're the Babe Ruth of YouTube. I mean, he became a verb. So there's a lot of stuff about Babe Ruth. He's the guy that moved baseball from the dead ball era, which was, not very exciting, to what we see today. Like, he is the father of baseball, modern baseball. I mean, when you're hitting more home runs in 1 year than entire teams, that's pretty, that's the GOAT.
Yeah, fair. And you know what? One other thing about that is that because you mentioned when you hit a home run, it's a Ruthian blast. When kids are shooting hoops on, they're not yelling Jordan, they're yelling Kobe.
They're yelling Kobe Jordan,
now. Right? That's right. So there's that too.
Well, my nephew, he's a modern guy. He's going to tell you that Jordan ain't the GOAT. He's going to say LeBron's the GOAT. So see, even in basketball, there's an argument. There ain't no argument in baseball.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Great discussion. Appreciate it. Let's go to you, Hoj. One card to start your career and then weigh in. Let's also, guys, weigh in on the Jordan versus Babe Ruth discussion. But Chris, over to you, Chris. One card to start your collection if it was from scratch right now.
Yeah. Let me do it in the other order. Let me weigh in on the Jordan Ruth first.
Sure.
I think the thing that Ruth has got that Jordan doesn't have yet, and that I don't know, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to have, is that we're still saying Babe Ruth's name almost a century later. And, so are we still going to be saying Jordan's name in 2090? As crazy as that sounds to think about, because that's the mystique that surrounds the great Bambino. So, I mean, when Luka got traded and then everybody on the Dallas Mavericks got hurt, people were saying it's the curse of the great Don Dino. They're throwing it back to Babe.
Huh.
I mean, that curse is twice the age of any of us. So I think that's the one thing that that's going to be real tough for anybody to compete with in any sport. Because you might have people who say Michael Phelps is, because of how decorated he is with gold medals. I mean, you could get a lot of different arguments going, but until your name is ringing bells 100 years later, that's the gold standard. Okay, but then with that said, first card that I would go with, I was thinking about this, and the way I build my collection, if I'm starting from scratch, I don't go for the biggest card right out of the gate. I got to build up to it again. So I think I start with something that is very nostalgic, and I just I go back to my basics. And I honestly, I would go back to this was maybe the first card that I got when I started collecting again back in 2016. One of the very first ones was the Scoring Kings, the Michael Jordan 93 Ultra Scoring Kings insert. Not a super rare card. It fell about 1 in 9 boxes. There's thousands of them. It's difficult in the high grade, but that card is so nostalgic for me. I mean, that card it sparks my love of collecting all over again every time I see it. So I would go get something like that, and I would start building a collection around a card like that, and then I might be back. I'd eventually probably get back to where I am today, where I don't even have a copy of that card anymore. But it all starts there. I would circle back to, if I'm starting over, I got to start with the same building blocks that I did this time.
It's a great point you make that, because I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know that I know the answer yet. And it's because, would I just go buy a Gretzky rookie card? Because, hockey's my favorite sport to watch. And he's been a big part of my life since he came into the league and blah, blah, blah. But right now, I don't know that that's the case, that would be the one I go for. It would have been the one I would have said up to maybe 2 to 3 years ago, though. That would have been a quick answer. Very, very easy. Now, I don't know. Now for me, it might be something different, but let's go to you, Brad. What are you thinking about this?
I'm kind of right there with you. I feel like I have to start with the Wayne Gretzky 79 OPG because it's been part of my life. I think I currently have 100 and some odd Gretzky rookies in my collection. OPGs, no tops. I don't own a single tops one. I have to go back to that. And as far as it goes with the GOATs, I love Tony. I mean, I love Babe Ruth. Myself and brother, we just bought a Pictou Lodge. It's a 99-year-old lodge and resort here in Nova Scotia. Biggest purchase of my life by far. We bought that 2 weeks ago, and Babe Ruth stayed there. And we're currently redesigning the main lodge, and we're going to have a Babe Ruth room. He used to come fishing to Nova Scotia, part of his thing. He was a big fisherman, as everyone probably knows. So we're actually going to have a dedicated Babe Ruth room just to bring back the history of it. But also in saying that, I think globally and I think long term, I have to go with a piece that I have from Upper Deck. It's my favorite piece of memorabilia that I own. I bought about 10 years ago. It's on the wall over here. It's 8 feet wide by 5 feet, and it's got Ali, Jordan, and Tiger Woods. Those three guys, I mean, they revolutionized. I mean, Ali in his own, he changed the world. I'd love to have Jackie Robinson on there as well. That would be, obviously that wasn't going to happen, but no one mentioned Tiger Woods. I'm a massive Tiger Woods fan. He revolutionized the game of golf. He's iconic, the names out there, but I do think Jordan is Jordan is the name that will be, yes, in 100 years, Michael Jordan is undoubtedly, in my opinion, that's going to be the name that's going to stick out above everyone else that we mentioned.
Yeah, that's kind of where I lean on an international level. Domestically though, even like Chris said with the Ruthian reference there, that's still in North America. That's in Dallas, But so I do kind of think that Ruth wins out maybe now North America. MJ globally, but I don't know. Tony made some good arguments about World War I as well, so I just don't know all the history there as well. So it's tough to really jump in. Joe, what about you? You're starting your collection from scratch. What's the one card you start with to seed the new collection?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of cards have gone through my mind. The first big card I acquired as
okay, just not a good day. Not a good day for the internet in Santa Cruz right now. I'm gonna, Joe, just it's okay, buddy. It's okay. I'm gonna answer the question for me, because I've been thinking about this the whole time, and I don't think I would start right now, knowing what I know and collecting as I collect, with a Gretzky rookie. I think, and this is it's kind of ironic, but I think the card I start with is one of the two 33 Gaudy Babe Ruths. It's either the number 53, the yellow background, or the 154, the standing pose. Right now in my collection, the 144 is my favorite card I own. It supplanted the Jackie Robinson, the Leaf Jackie. When I acquired it, it became my favorite card in my whole collection. Will the Joe Jackson become my favorite card in the collection? Probably. It's probably gonna steal the title from the Ruth. But if I was starting my collection from scratch right now, I don't think I would put all my eggs into one basket, money-wise, and then be done buying cards.
Well, you said budget wasn't I just shoot for the stars right there. You said I was a rich guy, so I was trying to live rich.
No, I was saying whatever what I was saying is whatever you could do, like, because we're all, we all.
I can't do that.
Yeah, I would probably go with either the 53 yellow background or the 144 standing. I don't know which one. It would depend on whichever card presented itself at the time. I think I would seed my collection with a Babe Ruth, which, not a Michael Jordan. The other one, it's funny. I don't own this card anymore right now, but the Michael Jordan Jambalaya, which I think the 97, I think that card is the poster child for all 90s inserts, all of them. Like, I think even the PMGs and the Rubies and all these, it's not numbered, I understand, but to me, that card, maybe one of those too. I'm going to start with both goats we've been discussing here, and then I'd figure my way into a Gretzky from there, probably. Yeah. That's where I'm at. So, all right, guys, fun discussion. Chris, the closer. We are at and by the way, Tony, you've been on way longer than my email said. You too already, Brad, but we've had many people on the screen. I wanted to give everybody a chance as best I could. It's tough, and the chat. I got to apologize, guys, again. And, I talked to Dr. Beckett. I had a one-on-one with him earlier this week. And, he's someone who I respect, and I consider him somewhat of a mentor. And I said, I'm just, seeking your feedback. Well, he said, well, sort of said that, your chat is so important to the show. And with this new format, it is harder for you to include the comments, as, Dan mentioned earlier. And it is. And I'm going to try and work on that, guys. I don't know what that means, but how I'm going to do that. But I'll talk to Joe and we'll try to figure it out. But I would like to get to some comments still. And, even though most of them are very old by now. So, we're good to kind of, I'm good to keep you all on the screen right now. But Tony, Brad, if you guys want to go, because it's late, please. Brad, you ready to go? You're good to go?
Yeah, I'm going to take off. It's 2 a.m. and big day tomorrow. I was going to see, just so I could show the one piece. I think if you guys might have seen it, I just grabbed it. I always like to show something, and this is if I can do it, I think I can. This is my favorite piece of memorabilia.
Oh yeah. That's awesome, man.
Lift it up a bit higher so we can see the auto. Oh yeah, there we go.
Man,
All on paper auto there.
All on paper auto, number 200. I bought that like I'm gonna say 10 years ago. It's absolutely framed awesome. It's just those guys are so iconic to me. All three of them, and I would love, like I said, if you could you imagine if Jackie Robinson was on that piece? And yeah, I just absolutely love that. It's something I walk up the stairs into the office, into the den. I look at it every single day. It's on display, and it makes me proud to be a fan, and I just love those guys. So
awesome.
Anyways, thank you, Jeremy. Thank Joe. Pleasure to meet you, Tony. Your passion.
Nice to meet you too, buddy.
Let's keep up the amazing job. I appreciate everything that you do, and thanks to the chat as well for being very kind.
Brad, thanks for coming on. Great to see you. I will see you in about in a month in Toronto.
Can't
Great
wait.
to see you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Tony, how about you? How you doing? Because I want to go ahead.
I got about 30 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I got church in the morning, but we're going to the late service, so I'm good.
I don't know that we'll go 30 more minutes, but we may. Chris.
Yeah. No, I'm good then.
I'm good to go for a bit longer. Chris, did you have a topic in mind that you were thinking of bringing to the show tonight that you want to introduce? And I know it's always good when we can get Joe more involved because it's always some great discussion. But did you come with anything tonight?
I did, yeah. And this is a topic that we could honestly knock out, just everybody take a stab at it and be done, or we could iterate on it too. I mean, it can really go either way, but I'll present it, and as part of the presentation this time, I'm going to build my answer into the presentation of the topic because I think it's going to help elucidate how there's a way to answer it, a way to respond to it. So it's inspired by Thursday Night Show, Jeremy, because I think one of the most insightful minutes of candid hobby content were the 2 or 3 minutes after you kind of decided to let your guard down and tell the chat what the card was, because you were going back and forth on whether you're going to do it. And I get it. I totally get it. But once you said what the card was, then you went into an explanation of how your reasoning and research process worked. And if I could have like some Neuralink that could let me see what every other hobbyist is thinking for 2 minutes, the thing that I would want to see is what is their brain doing when they're researching a card before they purchase? How does that work? What is the thought process, and how does that research excite and inspire them or cool them off and push them in a different direction? Because I think research can really do both of those things. It can really fire you up, or it can make you say, I didn't know there was quite so many of those, or I didn't realize there was all these other options. I might need to take a step back. So that's going to be my question is, what is each of us as a collector, what is our research method when we're deciding whether or not to go after a card or trying to identify a card to go after in the first place? And then explain, if you can, what it does to your energy level. If when you're digging into those pop reports and you figure out, I might have just stumbled into a jewel here. I might have just figured out that this card is a lot more rare than I had any concept of previously. Okay, so here's how it works for me. This is much more applicable to ultra modern and modern. So like 90s and onward. But what I do is, especially if it's like a new player. So like I'll give this as the example. I took up Mahomes collecting about 2 or 3 years ago. And I was really looking for a Mahomes card that suited me. And the offering of Mahomes cards, the catalog of Mahomes cards is enormous. It's actually overwhelming. And so that was one of the first things I said to myself, is that I want to get my arms around what this total offering is before I just jump in and buy a card here and buy a card there. I really need to know what the full offering is, and then I need to rank those cards, and then I need to go after the highest ranking one that I can actually afford. And so what I did, and it took days, it took a full weekend, it took a long weekend, but I went to all the checklist websites and I made a spreadsheet document that contained every Mahomes card that was made during his rookie season. And that's a lot of cards. It's a lot of inserts. It's around 25 or 30 different products. It's a lot of parallels. And then once I had that full spreadsheet in front of me, I'm saying this spreadsheet was thousands of rows. Once I had the full spreadsheet in front of me, then that challenged me to figure out how am I going to organize and sort and rank these. And so I started developing methods to figure out what are the best Mahomes cards based on what I prioritize and what I like the most. And I ended up spitting out a list, and then I ended up going after one of the cards that was on that list and getting it. And I'll tell you, it was the list-making experience that really invigorated me so much to pursue that card. I think I might not have – I don't know how much I would have pursued collecting those cards if I hadn't made that list. And ever since I tried that approach, I've done that for every player I collect now. Every player I collect, I go through as much of their catalog as pertains to me. For Mahomes, I'm just keeping it to mostly rookie year stuff. But I would make a catalog for every player I collect, and it just really fires me up. And I find little cards in that catalog, and I'm like, man, I got to go find this one. Now I've got half a dozen or so cards that I'm just waiting to show up because they're really important and meaningful to me because of my research process. Okay, so that's how mine works. Okay, that's how my process works. And I'm telling you, it's the remedy. Anytime I want to get fired up about collecting cards, I just start there. I just go do that. I just make that spreadsheet of the offering. I start trying to figure out how I prioritize and rank stuff, and I'm just off to the races. And and then I start getting upset when I can't find stuff. So, okay, that's how it works for me. Now I just want to pass the mic, Jeremy, to whoever should go next. That's my process, and that's how it works.
I want to start just by saying that I think that does apply a lot. Your method applies to ultra modern, because there are so many options for a player like Mahomes. The Panini era, the parallel era is one where you can get lost in all the options. Like you said, there is a monumental amount of cards to choose from. Yeah. How do you narrow it down and know which one to go for unless you know what your options are? My answer is very simple. In many cases, Chris, I just go with my gut. Like, I don't even do research a lot of the time. I will go with my gut because I'm not buying ultra modern where my gut is lost. I trust my gut on so much. And even on this Joe Jackson card, which is the most research I've ever put into purchasing a card, I had to research so much. The card, the player, his other cards. I researched all those things, but I couldn't rely on my gut because I had never done that research before. So like when I was buying Michael Jordan cards feverishly in 16, 17, 18, I really went with my gut a lot. It was what was being offered the night that what was being offered in that particular auction. And, I did try to go to some, I went to Blowout and I looked at some threads on there about important Jordan inserts. I listened to the House of Jordans podcast. I mean, like that was a part of my, becoming a part of that Jordan collecting community. And, but really it came down to gut and talking to some friends. It wasn't as in-depth as yours. Also because the money wasn't as high. When I did my research for this Joe Jackson, this was like, this is house money. This was, I never thought I'd do that ever, and I guess I should qualify by saying again, it's not going to be money. It's going to be cardboard, which is actually money because I could sell those cards and put money in the bank too. So it really is money. It really is. So that my method was to research all the cards that are competing with that one as key iconic cards in the hobby. And I narrowed it down to really 3 cards that fit into that category. The M101s that Tony just mentioned, the M101 Babe Ruth with its the -4, the -5, the 2 other variations, who's the Morehouse and the Gimbal, I think they are. There might be some others out there too. the T206 Honus Wagner and the 1914 Cracker Jack. And I went, once my research led me to believe that those are the three, that's the triumvirate of key cards in the whole hobby. You know, again, no Jordan PMG Green in that, right? My research was done talking to a few very few people and getting around it. So that was my method, if that made any sense. But really, for non-Joe Jackson 1914 Cracker Jacks, it's really my gut. So I don't do a lot of research a lot of the time. Okay, let's go to Tony.
So first, I got to go the impetus of why I want that card, right? Why I'm going to collect what I'm going to collect. So the one I'm going to use for an example is, a lot of times I love to read history, baseball history, and then I'll read about somebody and I'm like, dang, I didn't know about that guy. And I get real passionate about it. And then I'm thinking, I got to get some of his cards. So an example of that was I read Our Team about the 1948 Cleveland Indians and Larry Doby, man. Honestly, I'm ashamed to say this, but for the majority of my life, I did not know that he broke the color barrier in the American League. Didn't know it. He's just as important as Jackie. He did it like Larry Doby said. They never said, I'm going to be nicer to the second guy. No, he came in like 6 weeks later. He dealt with everything Jackie dealt with only in American League Park. And he came into a team that didn't even know he was coming. They didn't have time to prepare themselves. So I'm on a soapbox. So I thought I'm going to do a Larry Doby run. Well, Larry Doby's cards are plentiful, man, and they're cheap. So that's great. But I wanted a challenge. So what I do? I wanted a signed Larry Doby playing days card run. So when you do that, now you got to do some research. You got to find out what's the pop count that he has, because he didn't sign a lot, even though he lived into the, 20 years ago or whatever. He's a more modern guy, but back then he didn't sign a lot. So I don't do spreadsheets because I don't know how, but I can go on the notes on my phone. And I can go on Card Ladder because you got the gym rate thing. And so I'm a great commercial for you, by the way. I want a discount. No, I'm just joking. But I write them all down and I put the pop counts on there. And so when those cards show up, I know, man, there's only 4 of those. And I don't care. That card looks like somebody had it in their wallet for a year, but it's signed. And that's one of the 4. I got to get it. I can't be picky. I can't wait for a card grade of 5 and a 10 auto grade. I got to get what I can get, man. So that helps me make my decisions on what I'm doing. There's only one Leaf card. That's it. And I know the guy that's got it. It's Luke Bleecker Street Cards, and he ain't giving it up because he's got a signed Leaf set he's working on. So I've talked to him about it. He knows one day if he gives that up, I'd love to buy it from him. But I had to do the research because that helps me make my decision on if I move on a card or not.
Love it. I mean, we all have our process. Joe, you seem to be not lagging right now. What about you?
I'll try. I'm more in your style, Jeremy. I'm impulsive and or gut. I would say that I typically, if it could be as simple, especially in modern, I'll see something, I'll check comps, I'll see what's up on eBay, I'll evaluate the grade and or the others available, and then I'll just, if it's a auction or potentially a buy it now, I'll just make a decision if it's worth striking. But these are not high value cards. They're usually, in the range of 50 to 200. If it's vintage, I'll look into the pops a little bit and kind of assess eye appeal, like we've been talking about. So it's pretty straightforward. I like what Tony and Chris are both saying. I would aspire to that. I think there's a lot of joy that comes from that process, and as Chris said, invigoration. But yeah, I unfortunately don't necessarily always do that. And sometimes that bites me, but sometimes it also works out. So it's a little more of a free rolling form.
And, oftentimes I will deliberately not look at comps because I don't want them to bias me away from buying a card that my gut tells me is really good for my collection and will have, by the time I die and my estate needs to dispose of these things, or I dispose of them when I'm 75, 80 years old, 75 is kind of what I in my future, I kind of figure when I'm 75, Tony, I kind of figure I'm going to go on a road trip and do the card show circuit and sell my cards. Then who knows, maybe it'll be 80, maybe anyway, if I live that long. But yeah, I oftentimes will deliberately not do certain research because I just trust my gut so much when it comes to this hobby. And I think that's what comes with being in it for so very long. Now, so Pierre thinks I overspent by $100,000. It's a fair comment. I may have, but one of the reasons I don't think I did is because, well, the next day, 2 guys basically offered to pay me what I paid for it. So they're also willing to do that, to pay that much. And then there's the guy who also bid the same as much as I do. So there's 4 people that were willing to pay what I did. So can it really be true that I overpaid by 3 times for the card? I don't think that's logical that I did. I think I got it at a 50% discount. That's what I think. I think it's worth $250,000. So whatever that discount is, I think I got it for $100,000 cheaper than it's worth. Not today, maybe not today, but in the future, and not that far into the future. I really think I got a great deal on the card, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the other 3 people who feel that they would pay what I paid are also wrong. It's possible. I don't know, but that's the thing. In this case, I did look at comps because it's so much money. It's so much value. I kind of had to look at it. So, there's lots of moving parts there. Dan says, Jeremy, I think you underpaid because the happiness this card brought you is priceless. Yeah, I will say, thank you, Dan. I will just say that, you have to think of your family when you make deals like this, when you are not, where money is an issue in your life, and you are not just swimming in it. Like, I'm not a multi-millionaire by any means. So spending that kind of money is a big chunk for me, and I need to very much consider how it affects my, the future, my family in the future. Joe,
real quick, just because I seem to not be going down the vortex. It's the literary reference moment. Hearkening back to something Dr. Beckett said early on in the show around you getting that card, and something that really struck me as your friend, kind of experiencing it vicariously. A lot of times we just think, at least I think, it's like, oh yeah, well, if you had that much money, it's just so easy to do. It's not. Seeing you galvanize the resources and going not just through the process, but consolidation's not an easy process, and you're still in it. It's not over, right? You're still making tough decisions. The consideration of how you acquire, where are you going to actually possess the card? All these things are way more complicated, I think, than people who just go, oh wow, like you paid that. Wow, it's way more complicated when you're dealing in 6-figure numbers. And I've never dealt in 6-figure numbers, but just watching your process. And so what Dr. Beckett said is, you do deserve that card because you were the one that struck at that moment. You put in not only the research, but the practical elements of the timing of getting locked out on the night of like all these hoops and hurdles. And so your literary reference here, the rightful King of England pulls the sword out of the stone, and that's King Arthur. You're King Arthur in this moment, Jay Lee, on the Cracker Jack Joe Jackson card.
On that card on that night. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely an interesting experience for me. And you know what? It's also, and it's not monetary value, but just the sharing it has been so much fun, and the way it came out on the show, and now talking about it tonight, and having Dr. Beckett of all people here to yeah. validate it even further for me, and to, I didn't consult him on that card. I probably should have consulted him on the card too. I failed to do that, and it might have even made me be willing to up my bid even more, but I didn't need to, or it might have made me more comfortable coming to the bid that I did come to. So yeah, it's certainly
Hey, I want to add something to what Joe just said. Watching your reaction was priceless because when you knew you won it, you go, "It's over," and you threw your hands up. And then here's what's crazy: you didn't go straight to that card. You started looking at other lots first, and so you didn't even go straight to it. I went straight to that card and talked about it, but you kind of held back, and then you just let go, and you could see. I could see your emotions trying to come to terms with what had just happened. And you had a mix of wow, shock, happiness. And man, that was cool. Like, you need to save that. That's part of the story of the card, man.
Yeah. It's a very unique experience to be able to do that with an audience at the time. I mean, that's I don't know if anyone else really could have that opportunity covering the live auction and then purchasing what I think was the best card of the night, even though it was maybe finished 13th place in terms of value. But I guess I'm just lucky that Dick's was out bidding on that night as well.
Yeah, good thing they like modern.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Chris, great topic. Thank you for that. And okay, well, let's wrap this up, you guys. It is I know GC was trying to get us to wrap this up a while ago. He feels it's time to go to bed. So yeah, he said, "How about a hard stop at 10:30?" GC co-producing the show tonight. Thank you for jumping in. It is a tough job, so I appreciate it for sure. Mike Petty, make no mistake, that was the best card of the night. I believe so too. I believe so too. Mike Petty, appreciate that. Okay, guys, listen, I got lots of comments that we're just probably not going to get to. What I might do on the nights where we just can't get to them is, and I did it once before, is maybe like screenshot them and share them on Instagram or something like that. I know what Greg does midlife is he does episodes talking, his Q&A episodes that I love those. I don't know, maybe do something like that, but it's I'll talk to Joe. Got to find a way to work them in. Dr. Beckett suggested that at the end of every guest, the 10 minutes at the end of every guest, you go through the comments and catch up. But we overlap guests, so I got to really think about how to do that, because the chat is the show. Let's face it, the chat is the show here, and you guys are awesome. So I thank you for being here tonight as always, and for the comments. And I try to look at as many as I can, guys, but can't get to them all, even with my eyeballs as they come in fast and furious. But thank you. Okay, so I want to just start thanking you guys first. Tony, way longer than I told you, but I know the chat wanted you here, and I hope that keeping you here longer and getting pieces of you, it added up to sufficient amount of Tony time for everybody. So thank you for coming on. Keep doing what you're doing. You're killing it out there on YouTube, guys. If you're not following Southern Collector 14 yet, make sure that you are. So Tony, thank you, my friend.
Well, I was going to stay on as long as I could. If somebody ever gave me a chance to play Augusta National and I could play a couple extra holes, I'm not going to tell them no. So that's why I'm still on here. I'll stay on. Man, this is awesome. You got the best show going. So hey, man, this has been an honor. I do want to plug something though, being it's kind of coincidence. Tuesday I'm doing an interview with a guy named Dan Wallach, and he is he was the director of the Joe Jackson Museum for several years. He's a Joe Jackson historian, and so I'm doing an interview with him. It's coming out Tuesday morning, so you want to check that out, Jeremy.
Oh, you bet I do. Well, I'll get the notification when your video drops. So I appreciate that, Tony. I appreciate it. Chris Hoge, thank you again for jumping on twice tonight. Appreciate it. Great question to think about, timely, of course. So appreciate you jumping on and taking time out of your evening, as you do every Saturday here on Sports Cards Live 2.0.
My pleasure, buddy.
Thank you. And Joe, I know that you're probably, a little bit upset that you didn't have a great connection tonight, but having you on the screen always brings me comfort and keeps me grounded. So having you here is always a big part of the show for me. So thank you for being here tonight. And I know you were probably a little bit upset with your internet. So, but it's all good, buddy. It's all good.
Thanks. Great show, and wonderful to meet you, Tony. Hopefully we can have you back on sometime, and keep on doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, guys.
Nice to meet you, Chris.
Thank
too,
you,
brother.
Mark Santucci. Thank you, Andrew Deutsch, Justin Bode. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate the comment. It was awesome that Tony was here. Mike Petty, appreciate you being here. Ziggy No, thank you for tuning in. Yankees fan, we got you there. Bob Boozle in the house. Jake's Toe, thank you for being here. Mookie Chilson's been here all night. Good to see you, Mookie. Thank you. Thank you. Stiff Arm Wax in the house. What up, Stiffy? Good to see you, buddy. Thank you for being here. All right, guys. With that, we're going to end that. March the 22nd, 2025. This episode of Sports Cards Live is now
over.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks.